I'm sitting here with Zach Fagas, co-host of the Zach and Pat Show. Thank you for being on Easy Talk, brother.
Absolutely. Oh, dude, I'm so sorry.
You're good. I'm not worried
rookie
about it.
move as you're talking about how I do a podcast. Forget to silence my phone.
It's good because kind of makes it a little bit more
authentic, right?
Yeah, it's like we fuck up too.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you for being on. Someone I've wanted to talk to now for a minute, especially when I saw your show. I saw the very first episode of your show that I saw was actually the one with Patrick Woody because I was like childhood friends with Patrick. And when I saw him on the show, I knew that he had been training at Watson's martial arts, or I guess it's now Watson's BJJ.
Yeah, Watson Martial Arts. Yeah.
Watson Martial Arts still. And he was asking me, he's like, what gym like should I go to for a BJJ? Because like I'm living in this area, and I was like, dude, Kyle Watson's easy. The way I met you though was actually at Finney's MMA
right.
when you first started. I believe you first started doing BJJ, right?
I did. Yeah.
So
started jiu-jitsu there back in 2018 under Ezra.
Yeah. And then when Ezra bounced,
Ezra bounced, and then I hung out there for about a year, and then because I helped Lucas coach the kids class for a while there, and then
I remember that.
Yeah, and then COVID happened, everything shut down, and I noticed that there was a lot of the colored belts were kind of going to other places and stuff, so I just I kind of followed suit after when Watson opened back up after COVID in like July of 2020.
That's actually kind of like under notice is like how big the instructor or the head instructor at a BJJ school is, because everyone by definition is kind of underneath them,
right? And
you kind of learn from a specific person, and to have someone like Ezra who's so high level,
right?
Not to say that Lucas Lopes isn't, but Lucas Lopes is a black belt, Ezra Lennon is a black belt, and not all black belts are created equal in the sense of like teaching what they gravitate towards. Some people are more live, some people are more instructional. And I think what it did was, because I know that Finney still has a very successful like BJJ program, but what it does is when you have like that big change, it's going to cause people to kind of navigate to what fits best for them. So I had a lot of people kind of come up to me and they're like, hey, like, I'm thinking about leaving and all these other things. And I told them, I was like, hey, look, there's like a bunch of gyms in the area. You got Arnold BJJ, you got Watson's. I mean,
yeah,
you don't need to go to one place. In fact, I would also tell people like shop around before you really
cross train too.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's something that's really important. Like I like to pop into other gyms. Like I went into ESMMA earlier this week, trained with Corey. I haven't trained with him in
Corey Beck?
Yeah, I haven't trained with him in a while.
That's a throwback too, yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah, exactly. That's how I knew him. Yeah, and or know him. And
he's the BJJ instructor over there, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think he teaches like I think he said 1 or 2 nights a week.
Well, I mean, if you're having 2 nights a week of BJJ, then you're the BJJ
instructor.
You're
an instructor, yeah, for sure.
Good for him. I mean, I like him. He's a knowledgeable guy. I think he's a purple or a brown belt now?
Brown belt, yeah.
Brown belt. Mm-hmm. Congratulations to him.
Yeah.
You yourself now are a purple belt?
I'm purple belt, yeah. I got my purple belt, and it's been about a year and a half now. Purple belt, so yeah, I love it. I train anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week. It's a little harder now that I have 2 kids, but it's but I still find the time. I at least Watson's, they've got day classes, which is nice with my schedule. I can kind of always work those in Monday, Wednesday, Friday typically, and then I usually train on a week, usually on Saturday mornings as well. A buddy of mine, a buddy at Watson's, he's got a roofing company, and we all he actually matted out like a huge portion of this warehouse that they have, and a bunch of us just meet up there. I mean, it's 5 minutes from here.
No shit.
And we just meet up there every Saturday morning at like 7:30 in the morning. It'll be anywhere from like 6 to 12 of us there, and you can get like 4 or 5 groups comfortably rolling in the space. So
no gi, both.
Usually just no gi. We always do like anywhere from like 45 to 60 minutes worth of rounds. So it's just like open mat style, go.
Do you have like someone there like kind of going over some technique, or is it just kind of like a Sunday fun day?
It's like a Sunday fun day thing. Like just set. All right, what are we doing? All right, 6-minute rounds today. All right, everybody roll with everybody twice or whatever it is. And we just go there and beat the shit out of each other for for an hour, and it's great because we're all good friends, and it's a pretty high level room, and there's not an easy round in there. So yeah, we always get that's always usually my hardest training day of the week is on Saturday mornings.
You're competing a lot too, and I remember when you first started training, it was more about like engrossing yourself in the martial art. When did you kind of think, all right, I want to test my mettle against other people?
Well, I wrestled in high school, so it wasn't a completely foreign thing to me having that experience. I think I had my first competition like 4 or 6 months in to jiu-jitsu, just because there was like a local tournament. There's a bunch of guys from Finney's doing it.
Was it like a Naga or something?
I think it was a Fuji.
Oh, Fuji.
And, you know, I think my very first match, I literally just took the guy down, held him in side control, and won the match. You know, just wrestling, you know. I was like, I just basically double-legged the guy and held him in side control for like 3 minutes, and I ended up winning the match. But then, yeah, I don't know. I just, I like to, you know, I was talking about this the other day. Competing is, I like it, but it's so stressful. But it's always an opportunity for me to like level up every time that I do like set out to do a tournament or something, or one of these super fights that I've done recently. Like I just always notice like my game just levels up big time. So it's just an opportunity for me to test myself and just, you know, have something to train for, which I like.
I think it's a healthy dose of reality. I love martial arts, even if you don't compete, because I think it instills a lot of like discipline, like work ethic, teaches you of like an actual skill set for defending yourself. But there is something to be said about like actually going in there with someone who has quote unquote bad intentions for you, right? Because when you're rolling with the same people, or just let's say it's a different group of people, but it's like kind of like a controlled environment. Like, hey, we're just rolling. I want to make sure you don't get hurt because I want to have someone to roll with, and you want to make sure I don't get hurt so that you have someone to roll with. It's different when you go into competition when they're like, no, my goal is to make you tap, and if that requires hurting
breaking,
you,
yeah,
that's on
sorry,
you, right?
it's on you.
It kind of puts the theory into an application state, and it's like, okay, well, do I really know what I'm doing? And it might not even be a technique thing. It could be like, I know what to do, but I was physically incapable of doing it. Do I need to hit the weights? Do I need to do more cardio? What have you? You can kind of really see the holes in your game and really fill them up, so that when you're saying like every time I compete, it's an avenue for me to kind of level up. It's like, yeah, of course, win, lose, or draw, you're gonna kind of lay there naked and see like, this is where I'm weak or this is where I'm strong. So I know my guard pass is good, but man, like once I pass, like getting from quarter guard or half guard or side control into a mount or a better position, it seems to be very difficult. I need to work on that. I love jujitsu for that, the same way I love wrestling for that, or just grappling in general. It's low impact, high repetition martial art, so you can kind of do it throughout the year. And if your training partners are doing it intelligently, injuries should be minimized.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the same connotation of like CTE or like the brain damage that a lot of the striking martial arts have. So I do think that there's kind of like this natural progression of like MMA guys, once they start getting to that twilight of their years, they all seem to be gravitating towards like the competition jiu-jitsu aspect.
Yeah.
Terribly sorry to interrupt the content that you're enjoying right now, but if you've been watching our content for the past couple of months, you realize that Easy Talk is a brand new podcast. We're genuinely trying to figure this thing out as we're going. Some growing pains for sure. If you are genuinely enjoying this content, we feel very humble in that, but we would like to ask that you would also subscribe and like to the channel, simply because it does help us in the algorithms and ultimately to grow. So take a second. I'd really appreciate it. And on with the show.
I totally agree. I think it's, man, like if you told me I could never compete again, you know, that it would, you know, I'd be bummed about it. 100%.
Yeah.
Because that's really what I love. I love training. I love being in there with all the guys.
The
camaraderie, the being part of a team, like, and just always having something to get better at. There's always something, especially with jiu-jitsu, there's always something you're going to suck at. Yeah. You know, there's always somewhere, there's always room for improvement no matter where it is.
Well, you have a million ways to lose the second you hit hands, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I've been watching some of the competition matches. I've only ever competed in one jiu-jitsu tournament way back in the day. Mop made me do it just because he was like a big jiu-jitsu guy. But though I have not competed in jiu-jitsu a lot, I still enjoy watching jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So I'll go to Adam Seller's show. I'll go to Adam Meredith's show.
I've seen you in both of those.
I'm a big
competed
fan
on
of
the last two and didn't do so well at either of them.
But you're also going up against you're going up against good competition. These guys aren't slouches. So it's like, okay, you go in there, someone's got to lose, right? Because it's not, you can't, the thing I love about jiu-jitsu is it's similar to wrestling in the sense like there's no tie. There's no, we're not going to both get our hands raised or something. Someone here has to win. Someone here has to lose. And there's a beauty to that.
Right.
Sometimes it can be ugly for the loser. Sometimes not so much. But I often say, and I'll say the same thing to you that I say to all the fighters, is like, you did something that 99% of people will never do, and that's go out there and compete in a martial arts endeavor. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can have your ACL torn. You can have a joint manipulation go wrong, or you can't, there's...
I've got two of them. I got the torn meniscus in one of my knees right now. I've got all sorts
competition? Or training?
Training. Yeah. I had surgery on it 2 years ago, and I think I retore it probably like 6 or 7 months ago.
Guys going too hard, or
I don't even know. No, it wasn't even. It was just like a weird fluke thing. Like I had a guy in like my half guard and like reverse de la Hiva, and he just like stood up funny and it just popped. And I was like, I don't know if. And then it's fine because like it'll feel fine like most of the time, but every once in a while it just like flips around in there, and then all I got to do is like just like straighten my knee really hard, and it like pops back. And I'm like so used to it now that like I just don't. I like it's gotten so loose that I can just like it's not a big deal for it to pop out.
Jesus Christ.
I'm probably gonna get the. I went to a specialist probably back in August, and I probably will get the surgery here soon. I'm just figuring out some shit with insurance right now. It's been a nightmare.
Why? Because of what you do for work?
Well, I'm self-employed, and I pay for my own insurance, and I thought it was pretty good insurance. I'm paying like I think it's $336 a month, so I'm thinking it's good quality.
Just yourself or for
just myself.
Family?
Just for myself. My wife's a teacher and she has she has great benefits, and
she can't lump you in.
If she did, it would cost her. We looked at this, and for her to add me onto hers, it would take like $900 out of her check every month.
For an additional
for me, not for the kids.
So both of the children under her,
yes,
doesn't cost this much.
No, I think it's like an extra like 100 or something.
Wow.
Yeah, but then to add me on,
you're not a smoker.
No.
You're how old? Like
31. We're the same age.
We're the same age.
We're the same age. Yeah.
That's
2011.
Crazy.
Right?
So $450. I'm guessing they get paid bi-weekly or twice a month.
Yeah, exactly.
So $450 a paycheck for an additional or your spouse.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, so I was like, oh well, I can definitely beat that on the getting private market, and so that's what I've done, and I thought it was good. I went and got an MRI in August, and that's when I found out I retore it. And he's like, yeah, it'll be quick surgery, 4 to 6 week recovery. We'll just go in there, clean it out. You'll be back on the mats training. And I'm like, okay, let's do. And then I had the two super fights. I had both Adam's show, Adam Meredith,
then
Adam Sellers, and I was like, and I was supposed to be going up against Sean Woodson for Adam Sellers, which I was very excited about. I was like, that was active UFC fighter, like, who's not really known as a grappler. Like I might have I think it could be a good match. And I was very excited about that one. And then, it didn't end up happening. But so I was like, well, I'm going to hold out to get this surgery until after that. And then since I'm glad I waited, because when I got the bill, I got a almost $5,000 bill for just the MRI. And I was like, well, I thought I had insurance, and
they didn't cover it.
They
elective surgery. What are they saying?
Well, now I had to resubmit a claim and say that it was an accident, because I told them, how it happened, well, no, I really think it happened. I can't remember if it happened in jiu-jitsu or in CrossFit, because I do two things that are pretty notorious for injuring yourself. So it might have happened at CrossFit, and then it happened a little bit, and then that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back in jiu-jitsu. I don't really know, but I believe I told them it was in CrossFit, or I just said the gym.
Brother, the universal is I fell down some steps.
Yeah,
you got cancer. Damn, I fell down some steps.
I fell down some steps. Yeah, I should have said something like that. But now we resubmitted it as an accident claim, so who knows? Maybe it'll get covered. But if not, I don't know. I'm gonna figure something out. But I can live with it right now. So
So how do you get your insurance right now? Do you go through a private company, or do you have like an LLC or a company where you essentially buy insurance for yourself? Like, do you employ yourself through your LLC?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you're buying it through the business marketplace.
Yes.
For
of course.
better.
Yeah.
That's shocking then, because like usually that's better health insurance, and that's still proven.
I would have thought so too. And I thought I was getting good shit, but I never use it. I hate going to the doctor.
Same.
Like I really only go if I absolutely have to. And I felt like this was a pretty. I know something's going on in there. I just had surgery on it 2 years ago, so I'm like, I'm kind of feeling like the same. I'm like, I think I need to probably go get this looked at. And so I fight tooth and nail to go to the doctor. I will totally avoid it at all costs. But I felt like this was something I needed to go get checked out. And that's the first time I've ever had to use it.
Was it the MRI alone was $5,000?
Yeah, or $4,800 is what I got.
That's crazy.
And my insurance paid for $300 of it, so it would have been $5,100. Yeah, I was like, what? How kind of them? Yeah, you guys paid for a whole $300 of the $5,100 bill. Thank you. Yeah.
Health insurance seems to be one of these things.
It's a fucking racket.
Or not just health insurance, but insurance in general. I get it, because insurance by definition is like the what if, right? Like the oh shit moment. And the problem is, as you get more and more of a depleting middle class, you'll have less and less people with disposable income that are like, the more people that need insurance will then end up using insurance. Therefore, insurance will get more expensive, because they'll always create a profit motive or a profit margin. And then, with healthcare specifically, when you look at the populace of America and the trajectory, it's like, well, no shit. Like, no wonder everything's getting more expensive. There's only so many pills for so many things until you get to like the root cause of these issues. You're going to have a bloating of the healthcare system. We are just notoriously sick people. So like, it would make sense that then the system in which to cure us is just overrun.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't really have a good solution to the whole healthcare other than just like people just getting healthier, working out, eating.
I mean, I think that's
but then
ultimately
shit still happens. Like you're still gonna have all these things. But when the number one cause of death in America is diabetes.
Yeah, it's chronic illness.
Yeah, it's like this is 100%. No, I don't want to say 100%. Sorry, it's vastly more preventable than other things, right? So I don't know. It's the poor decisions of the many are affecting the many.
Yes.
Anyway, so I'm sorry that you're having to go through that.
Dude, it's not a big deal. It's okay. We'll figure it out. I'm not, I'm in a decent spot with everything else in my life. It's there as long if money can fix it, it's not a problem. That's a line my grandma always said, and I was like, it's not a true problem if money can fix it. So
I like that.
I was like, that's a line it's one that's always stuck with me.
So we're gonna kind of bounce back and forth here, but you brought up the real estate. When I first started training with you, I think you had just gotten your realtor's license.
Yeah.
This was back, 2018, 2019?
2019 is when I got it. Yeah.
Because I remember you saying that, like, oh, I'm going into real estate. And I was like, okay, cool, man. Like, congratulations.
Good luck.
And I think I did say, like, good luck. I was like, it's easy to get in. It's hard to sell a house.
Hard to hang out in there. Yeah, dude.
It's clearly crushing it. You're doing well for yourself. So congratulations,
it's been a good 5 years in the business.
Learning curve?
So, I mean, I've had some success really since the beginning. I'm not trying to really suck my own dick here, but
I'm the shit. I sell houses.
I mean, I've done all right since the jump. Like I never really had that. I think there's only been of the 5 years that have gone by, there's only been 1 month that's gone by where I haven't sold a house. And I sell anywhere from 3 to 6 houses a month.
Good volume.
Done.
Do you do just what, like single
over
family,
50
duplex?
Mostly single families. I would say like 90% of my business is single family homes. Then I sell, a handful of duplexes and quads per year because I do help a lot of investors out. I'm an investor myself. I, flip a handful of houses a year. I've got a small rental portfolio. I'm gotten into that over the last couple of years.
So if you don't mind, do you mind if we kind of delve into that a little
please.
bit? So the difference between like when you say flipping a home, because there's some people that might not understand the jargon. Flipping a home versus, let's say, like a rental property. How do you depict, or what is the calculation that you go through when deciding what is going to be a rental and what's going to be a flip?
Is it
the
really
duplex for a family? The multiple?
Yeah, well, it just depends on what it all depends on the numbers and how the numbers work. Like if I'm looking at this house, like for example, I'm running the numbers on this house in Chesterfield right now that me and my partner are probably going to buy, and sure, could we make it a rental? Yeah, we could. It's like, okay, would I rather go through, rehab this whole house and go through several months worth of work? And
is it an older home that needs work?
Yeah.
Okay.
And go through 4 to 6 months worth of like rehab in this house to to put tens of thousands of dollars into it to then whenever I rent this thing out, I'll be making a couple $100 a month. Is that
you're talking about the delta between the mortgage and what the renter would pay you?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. The cash flow there. So what the mortgage costs and what I have incoming in rent. Would I rather make a few $100s a month in cash flow, or would I rather make $30,000 and sell it right now and make my money back and go invest that into another deal? It's like I'd rather do the latter. But it totally depends, because I've bought houses that I want to turn into rentals as well, because it also depends on the location and what it's going to rent for. Like I've got several houses, and I've got a couple houses in the city, and those rent really well, and I've had steady tenants, and there's a lot more things around there. I have a couple of my houses I rent out midterm rental, where I rent them out to like traveling nurses, which that's been really great. I've been loving that. Actually that's what the house that me and my wife live in now, we moved out of that one 2 years ago, and we essentially just like left all of our shit there and now we've been renting that one out midterm rental, for, when I say midterm rental, I mean anywhere from 30 days to 6 months is what the leases are typically, and it's usually these traveling professionals.
It's funny that you say that, because we also do we also have rental properties. We don't have a single family unit that we rent out. Usually what we do is we flip the single family units, rent out the double or 4 family units, simply because of the economics of it, right? It's like I can have 2 rents for the same, not the same mortgage, but roughly the same mortgage. Maybe the delta in the mortgage is like 0.2, 0.15. So like if If a regular single family mortgage will be 1,500, the duplex is maybe like 1,900. But the difference is I have two tenants, and if they're both paying 1,100, then my delta is still amazing, right? And it always goes down to like cash flow for me. Like, where's my cash at, and where's my cash flow out? I tend to want to hold on to assets, especially homes, just because I can borrow against them for a lesser rate. And that's really like when people talk to me, and by the way, I'm going to say some things, and I would love if you disagree or agree, like by all means, like to me, in my lexicon of finance, the real value of a home is not the cash flow, it's actually the ability to borrow from it. Simply put, the more rental units I have, the cash flow is nice, but like I'm having mortgages, so like it might look like a lot of money's coming in, but also a lot of money's coming out, right? But what's really nice about that is now I have a cumulative asset class that I can borrow against and buy a new asset class. So let's say, to kind of put like application theory to application. Let's say you have one duplex. The mortgage is roughly $2,000 a month. There's a bottom tenant and a top tenant. If you're charging each of them $1,100, okay, your delta, the profit margin on any given month is $200, which any person that has rentals knows that's kind of sketchy, because if anything goes wrong with the unit at all, you're kind of putting that $200 in almost like a piggy bank just in case you need a window, something happens with the thermostat or the furnace or what have you. There's so many things that can go wrong in a home, especially in the city where these homes are like over 100 years old now.
Breaking, shit breaking all
lead
the time.
pipes, corroding, what have you, new plumbing. Anyway, but what's nice about owning that duplex instead of like maybe rehabbing it and flipping it is now like every month that goes on, I'm paying that mortgage. Yeah, I'm not making a huge amount of cash flow, but those renters are paying the mortgage on my behalf, and that principal balance is something that I can then borrow from in the future. And then I can take that principal balance, refinance that home. What do I care about the interest rate? I can always adjust rent according anyway. Now I still have a steady cash flow as a renter, but now I take someone else's money, i.e. the bank, and now I put that as a down payment on my new property, my next one.
Right.
Now, obviously there's a limit to this, and usually it's like your debt to income ratio. There's a lot of factors that go into it, your credit, what have you. But I've realized that there's nothing better to borrow than a tangible asset that's non-depreciating, so not like a car or anything, obviously. But it's really changed my life, to be completely frank with you. It's offered me multiple revenue paths. If I'm, now I don't want to say short on cash, but if cash flow has dwindled, I can adjust accordingly. And if I'm flush with cash, I can adjust accordingly. And it just, that malleability is so immense to me. When I was younger, in my early 20s, I always thought of investing as like either I'm putting it in some sort of precious metal or some sort of company, right? Either stock or gold, silver, what have you. And then around like 27, 28, the markets just started shifting. New asset classes produced themselves in cryptocurrency. And then also I started getting inundated with real estate. And then it makes no wonder then, like, my earning potential.
But that's also at that time when you're 28, 29, that's what, 2020-ish time, right?
It was a good time for me.
It's a good time for that, where that's when everything.
It was like a great realignment of everything.
And I mean, look at real estate prices that jumped, 2019 to 2020, 2021. I mean, that's when things shot up.
I think there's going to be a reckoning on that one, though.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't, I really don't know. But there's a good chance.
No one really does. Anyone that says that, the speculation that I have is about 4 or 5 months ago when the Federal Reserve lowered interest rates by 50 basis points, the only other 2 times they did that in the last 20 years immediately caused a recession. Not immediately, but within like the next calendar year. By the way, still think that's going to happen now as well, regardless if Trump got elected. It's not necessarily a problem. Like, it's not that housing is a bubble. It's that the economy is kind of a bubble. Does that make sense? When you have $36 trillion in debt, no real presidential candidate has talked openly about like a zero-sum budget sequence going forward. And even if we have Congress, I mean, I would love to see them do something like that right now, but I believe the previous omnibus bill that they passed goes into 2026, so Trump can't do shit until the midterms anyway.
Right.
It really kind of screws the individual because, like, you and me, the individual, we're the micro level. We're just trying to navigate our financial principles and this shifting landscape with the rules that are set before us. I always equate it to you're playing basketball, but sometimes you don't have to dribble. Sometimes you do have to dribble. The three-point line might move in, it might move out. You're still playing the same game, but the rules are adjusting or changing constantly. And you're just trying to put points on the board, right? I don't think it has anything to do with like housing market specifically, or cryptocurrency, or the debt consumer income ratio. I think it just has to do with the fact that we're printing more money than we could feasibly do anything with. And at $36 trillion, you can't tax your way out of this hole.
No.
So your goal is either you need some sort of AI revolution where it's on par with the Industrial Revolution, but in orders of magnitude based on inflation, so that you can grow yourself out of this hole, or inflate your way out of this hole.
Well, now what do you mean by that?
If the dollar is worth less year over year, 10%, 10%.
Yeah.
$36 trillion over the course of 10 years suddenly seems like a
Yeah,
smaller
right. Yeah,
amount.
okay.
The problem with that is the middle class gets eaten alive.
Okay. Yeah.
Because wages are always reactionary, never proactive. So like inflation happens and you feel that inflation immediately, and then next year you get a cost of living adjustment, right? Well, what happens for today? Like strawberries was $1 a pound, now it's $2 a pound. That hurts the individual.
For sure.
Or you go to the McDonald's drive-through and now your $5 menu is now the $10 menu, right?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like that trajectory and trend, but I also don't have a solution to it because I don't think anyone's like, I don't really think there's like adults at the helm of the wheel. Does that make sense?
No. Yeah. I mean, and I'm really curious to see what this new administration does. Like, I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be an improvement for sure.
I agree.
But, we'll see. Because how many times have we had candidates go in there that say they're going to do all these things, and
they have the opportunity to do it now.
Yeah, exactly.
You have the executive and Congress. I mean, if there was ever a time,
this is it. So we'll see. I mean, I'm hopeful. There's going to be some big changes. So, but we'll see.
I think recession, and then I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
I think recession, but then I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of podcasts. And the one that I always recommend to everybody is the All In podcast.
Okay.
With Chamath Palihapitiya.
I just listened to him
David
on Rogan.
Sachs.
I really liked him.
Dude, if you like him on Rogan, All In podcast, once a week, you have some of the most supremely intelligent financiers of the world just spitting raw knowledge for an hour. I look forward to it every week.
Okay.
And sometimes I don't necessarily agree with, because obviously everyone has a bias.
Right.
Right.
Well,
They might say something.
you shouldn't agree with everything.
Yeah.
You
If
know?
I do,
Like,
then I'm just being, I think I'm a puppet.
Yeah,
right?
you're a puppet, dude. And like that's the thing is like people need to learn how to think for themselves.
Critical thinking.
Yeah. I think that's something we lack. I think we just repeat things that we hear online, and we see a soundbite or a TikTok or an Instagram reel, and we tend to repeat things. I mean, I'm guilty of it. There's things that I hear sometimes that I'll repeat that, is that really how I think, or did I just hear that and I want to sound smart?
Did it just sound good?
Yeah. Do I just want to sound good?
Do you ever wonder, or do you ever like concern yourself whether you're in your own echo chamber?
No, but yeah, I probably should.
I worry whenever I'm always agreeing with people. Like whenever I'm in a room and because I think to myself like, okay,
yeah,
either everyone in here is smart, or we're all sniffing our own farts.
Right. I just want to be everybody's friend. So I'm
yeah.
and in my industry, I'd be lying to you if I'm with a client and I'm just trying to buddy with them.
That's sales, brother.
That's sales,
Not trying to hey, by the way, I hate that tie.
Yeah, dude, yeah, exactly.
Zach, how's it going?
That is an ugly fucking tie.
Why would you wear brown with off brown?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, trendsetter.
Right.
No, sales is actually a skill set that I came up from finance and now I work in information systems. But one of the things that I've really kind of delved into in the last year and a half is sales. And I wouldn't have told you that I enjoyed it or had the skill set. But now that I'm kind of getting my feet wet with it, I gotta be honest with you, it's fucking amazing.
I love it.
It's people.
It's the only industry I've ever been good at. I'm good with people. I think I'm a good friend maker. Like that's one thing my guy who kind of mentored me in real estate. He always told me, he's like, man, in this business, you just got to be a professional friend maker. Yeah. And I was like, that's something that kind of always stuck with me, and it's something I've always think I'm good at. Or decent at. I'm good at. Being able to have a conversation with a perfect stranger, relate to them on some level, find some way that we, can get along.
Common ground.
Yeah, some common ground. And make friends, have a conversation, and really I think that stems back to I spent about 10 years in the restaurant industry. And,
is that what you did before real estate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Were you a waiter? Were you like a manager?
We can dive down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So I spent about 10 years in the restaurant industry. I waited tables, I cooked, I did just about everything. And then my junior year in college, I was given an opportunity. A friend of mine, his dad, came up to me basically and said, hey, don't know, I was going to college at Missouri State. I was a marketing major with
Missouri State is what, Bears?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
sorry.
down in Springfield. And I loved it. I was the classic. I went to college because I wanted to have the college experience. Never really had a game plan as far as what I wanted.
You were having fun? Young?
Yeah, dude. I just wanted to go party with my buddies. I'm not going to lie. That's what I wanted to do. And I did that. Trust me. I had a blast down there. But like, I've have a degree that I've yet to use. And I've not needed a degree.
What is
for
your degree in, if you don't mind me asking?
Psychology with a minor in general business, and I'll tell you how we got there. So, my buddy's dad at the time, most successful person I'd ever really known, only millionaire I'd ever really known, or I guess that I knew of, that I know, and that sounded weird, that I knew of, always he was always the cool dad growing up. We always did all the fun stuff, and it was. They had the big house, fancy stuff, and he basically came to me and was like, "Hey, we want to."
Did you look up to him because of that?
Oh, for sure,
Yeah,
100%, dude. We'd show up to like arcades. He'd toss all the kids like hundreds, and we'd go and
That's the fucking man.
Yeah, dude. Like we thought that was the coolest shit in the world. And he came to me and was like, "Hey, I want to go open up. We want to open up a barbecue restaurant, and I want you to help us. I want you to help us run it." And I, basically sweat equity for a piece of ownership is basically what I was offered.
How old were you at the time?
21.
And you said still in college.
I was like, fuck yeah, dude.
Sophomore, junior?
I believe, a junior. I was junior year of college. Still didn't really know what I was going to be at the time. I was a marketing major with a minor in psychology. The only reason I minored in psychology is just because that's what I enjoyed it. I was like, I don't know if I'll really ever go into this field, but like I really enjoy like learning about how people think and like all the.
It was stimulating.
Yeah, for sure. I was like, this is actually like I don't mind studying this shit because it's super interesting to me, and so he was like, hey, we want to open up a barbecue place. And we want you to run it. And I was like, dude, I'm in. Fuck yeah, let's do it. And that turned into us, every time I came home, we're working on recipes. We go to this barbecue school down in Georgia with Myron Mixon, who's like this, like, world championship barbecue guy. We go to these classes and then, I end up moving my major around so that I can graduate in 4 years, like faster. I had more psychology credits at the time. So I was like, all right, I'll just be a psychology major.
And then I'll minor in something else.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, that'll be fine. I just wanted to graduate as fast as I could so we could do this project. And I was like, I can always go back to school or whatever. It's kind of what I was thinking at the time. And then graduated. Then it was like, all right, now what? Well, we need to find a place. So I ended up going to, while we were waiting, there was a new Sugar Fire location opening up. And I was like, well, it's going to be kind of a similar concept to what we're doing. Why don't I go get a job there? And I applied there the day before they opened.
Oh, you sneaky bastard! You got a job at Sugar Fire to learn the trade.
Yeah,
that's good. I mean, don't get me wrong.
And of course, fast forward a couple of years when I was leaving to open up a barbecue place, they weren't super pumped about that. But anyway, yeah, I worked there.
Competition.
Dude, that was one of life. I worked there for about 2 weeks, and then with my experience in the restaurant industry before, and I'm surrounded by like all these high schoolers, and they're like, "Oh, you're the guy who just you're a college graduate." They made me a manager really quick, and I ended up working there for about a year and 8 months, and that was like one of the best jobs I ever had. It was one literally right over here in Fenton, and I loved it there. It was a lot. Just had so much fun. Ended up, I worked there for about a year and 8 months, and then we went and opened up our place. We got this building in Kirkwood. I spent 9 months rehabbing this thing 7 days a week for, anywhere from
you physically rehabbing it? Like
me and three guys were there pretty much every day. And then they had other contractors there, but like, I ripped up, 3 layers of floor. We added two additions on the building, literally gutted the entire, everything but the exterior 4 walls. We poured a new floor. Me and my little cousin, who's 3 years younger than me, framed everything in that whole building. Like we put 2 additions on the building, 2 new roofs.
How are you guys teaching yourself how to do this?
There was 2 contractors. There was like 2 guys kind of heading it. Yeah, and they were like kind of like the guys, and we were kind of they were just telling us what to do basically. Yeah. By the end of it, I was a completely different person than I was at the beginning of it. So did that for 9 months, and then we opened up, and I ran it for the first year, and I had a conversation with, the guy that I went in business with. There was a lot of things that were, not happening that we had agreed upon as far as, how many hours I was working. I was working 70, 80 hours a week there.
Did you guys have a contract? Did you have this in
That's
writing?
the problem. Yeah,
Oh,
that was.
You did or didn't?
We did not.
Oh,
that was my fuck up. Yeah, for sure.
I hate doing this because like I'm not a very litigious person in general, but whenever I always tell my friends, because sometimes my friends will come to me with ideas and stuff, and I go, listen, Just want you to know that if we go down this path, now I'm putting on a different hat. I'm not your boy anymore.
Yeah.
If we're talking about money, if we're talking about opportunities, now I'm going to like fucking start grilling you guys, and I'm going to get my attorney involved because now I'm going to need all this in writing. Because I don't want to do any of this bullshit where we shake hands, and then you say you didn't say something, and if I have to take you to court, now it's money out of my pocket. So, I mean, duly noted. I learned that lesson too.
I fucked up trusting, you know, and I, you know, I'm a lot better about that now. I'm very similar to you now. Now that I've gone into, I've been burned a couple times.
You have a fucking waiver for the podcast.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm that guy now.
Exactly. So, you know, and then, you know, and that was one of the things I wanted is we wanted to kind of put our agreement in writing. And, you know, at the time he didn't want to do that. And so I gave him an ultimatum and I was like, all right, either we do this.
So you had done all this work.
3 years of my life.
You guys are starting to operate now and you're like, yo, listen, what we agreed upon is not what I'm actually doing.
That was
we
the
need
exact
to revisit
this
this partnership. And he was like, go fuck yourself.
Basically, yeah. You know, I mean,
what did you do after that? Bounce?
Yeah.
Is that when you started real estate?
Well, yeah. So I basically gave him an ultimatum. I was like, either we kind of put this in writing or I'm out. And then I ended up walking, you know, and he didn't want to do that. So I left. Dude, that was the hardest decision I ever had to make, man. Like,
how old are you?
I was, So graduated at 20. I was probably 25.
How much money did you have in the bank when you walked away?
Bro.
Nothing.
Yeah. Dude, I was making $500 a week working there for 70 hours a week.
Jesus.
You know, so that was the reason. I was like,
but it was with the enticement of possible equity.
Exactly.
And
100%. And I was like, this is my dream. I've put my blood, sweat, and tears into this building. Like, I love, like, these customers. I know every single, you know, we have our regulars. I love.
Was the business profitable? Was it?
No, it really wasn't in a good spot. That was another part too. Is it wasn't, you know, because we had so much in the build out, and you know, we were definitely in debt for sure.
No, I'm talking about operationally. Like I understand that there's
initial investment. We had.
I'm talking about once you quote unquote open the doors for business. Were you guys like profits?
Yes. You know, not a ton.
Back the debt,
not a ton though.
What's the restaurant business, brother?
The restaurant is, and it was barbecue. So you think about how, you know, it's a protein heavy, very protein heavy.
It's expensive food.
Yeah, it's expensive food. You could go to barbecue and not spend. Yeah, go to barbecue and not spend $25. Like,
yeah, you know, it's funny. Everybody that I know now that goes into some sort of restaurant business, it immediately turns into cocktail hour real quick because they go in there thinking that they want to sell food. And don't get me wrong, two of my buddies own restaurants, and the initial business model was like, we're just gonna, you know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then once they get in there, once they see the profit margins, once they see the operational awareness, they're quickly installing a bar. They're quickly getting their liquor license, and they're like, dude, the bar is where we're making our money. The food is the passion, but the bar is the profit margins. When you can sell a beer that you bought for, you know, 60 cents for $4, yeah. That's what's keeping the lights on.
100%, dude. And, you know, and there's not all the labor that goes into that. Because, like, with barbecue, you got to have someone there around the clock.
An actual pit master.
Yeah, well, you got guys showing up at, you know, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Start smoking
you
the
know,
meat,
because that smokes all night. And, like, dude, it's a whole thing. And, you know, and the pit masters, they're, you know, higher dollar employees because it's a skill set, you know, and they're the ones in there dealing with, you know, it's not like it's
a head chef for barbecue.
Exactly. And so like you know, your labor costs are through the roof before you even open up the doors, you know? And so it's just, you're already starting the day every day in the whole big time. And, so that was rough. You know, I left there and, I went, man, that was like this like really lost period where I was like, man, I put all my eggs in this basket and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck to do now. And, you know, I thought maybe I'll be an electrician. My mom, you know, she had some connections at an electric company. She ended up getting me a job there. And I went there and I was like, maybe I'll be an electrician. I ended up going there, working in the warehouse. And all I basically did was like drive a truck and delivered supplies to electricians I did that for about eight months. And, you know, I was making literally the same amount of money as I was at the barbecue place, but working, you know, 40 hours. And, you know, that was like but man, that was such a mind fuck for me because I went from this place where I was the man. I ran the whole fucking place. I had 36 employees underneath me. Like I was the boss, you know, like everybody was coming to me with problems all day, every day. And then I went into there to this place where I was just like lowest man on the totem pole.
You're just another number.
Just a number, just delivering shit. I would literally listen to podcasts for like 7 or 8 hours a day. You know, like,
is that so bad?
No, it was great. I mean, that honestly, like I loved it. Like in that aspect of it, like that was like, but I was just like, I felt like I didn't have like, I was like so on being like below my potential. Like I had so much more potential.
Underemployed.
Underemployed. I couldn't figure out the word there. Yeah, underemployed, and I was like, man, I'm capable of so much more. Like I just went from being, you know, the boss of everybody to being this low level employee, and I was like, it sucked. And I was like, man, but then they were like, oh, do you want to become an electrician? And that was like a part of it. And they were like, I thought about it.
They do like what, an apprentice
An
program?
apprenticeship. It's like a 5-year apprenticeship. And
5 years, goddamn.
Yeah, to be a journeyman electrician, it's 5 years. And
well, it makes sense though, because I mean, it's a very dangerous.
It's a dangerous profession for sure. And I mean, there's like pay increases and shit along the way. And I thought about that, but like, man, here's what turned me off on it is all the guys that I talked to that worked in the company that were in their 40s and 50s just seemed to not really like what they did every day. And I was like, well, there's my future. So
did they not like what they did, or did they not like their salaries?
Because it seemed like they didn't like what they did.
Well, I don't think there's anything as bad as like that concept of a bad job. I always equate it to salaries. Like, there's no such thing as a bad job. There's only bad salaries. If you tell me, hey Zach, what do you do for a living? And you're like, I smear shit on my face, and then I ask you, how much do you get paid? And you're like, $250,000 a year. I'm handing you my resume. I'll smear some shit on my face. Yeah, that's a great job.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
So it's like,
yeah, you're right.
I don't think it's the work. I think it's the salaries. There's no such thing as a bad job. Work is honest. Like, there's no greater calling than like being a father for a man, in my opinion. There's no greater calling than being a father, like a protector, and then working, a provider. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like these men, maybe if they didn't have wives, they didn't have kids, they're not fulfilling their true purpose, and they're feeling like underwhelmed by life and what it has to offer. And then simultaneously, they're working their asses off, and they're making less than what they believe they should, or what quality of life standards they have. So then like they just become like these like grumpy fucking dudes. And like I always look at white collar work and blue collar work in the same way. Like, I know data analysts that make $50,000 a year that say they quote unquote work hard. You know what I mean? Like, relax. You're in an air conditioned room. Yeah. You're chilling. Then I'll see like, the electrician that'll make like $75,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year. Good money, quote unquote. But then you see the kind of work they're doing. So it's like the threshold for what is adequate for that role is just not meeting it. Yeah. Right. So it doesn't shock me that this was something you experienced. But I would also say that, like, I know welders, I know electricians, I know all these guys. I know a guy who started as an electrician, opened up his own HVAC company, and now he's making, like, he's crushing it.
Yeah, right? I'm sure.
So it's also the individual. Like, are these go-getters?
But he's also a business owner, too. He's not.
Does he have the entrepreneurial spirit? Yeah. I go back and forth on that, though, Zach, because I do think, like, some people have.
Dude, I agree with you 110%, and I've experienced that in my own. And for sure, because in the business I'm in real estate, and we can get there in a minute, but like you definitely have to have that if you want to be successful. Because
like a go-getter, like I'm gonna.
Because it's like, well, you don't have anybody telling you what to do. At least
there's no golden path.
No, dude, you do it your own way, and you figure it out. Like there's not a one clear way to do it.
And you like that freedom.
Love it, dude. Love it.
Could you go back to like a 9 to 5?
Not a chance.
Not anymore.
Not a chance.
Just because you like the.
I like the freedom, and I like the craziness of it. I like
controlled chaos.
It is controlled chaos for sure. I mean, I have no 2 days ever look the same, and it's
interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it keeps me on my toes. That's for sure, and it makes things a little bit more difficult now that I have multiple kids at home. But I wouldn't trade it for the world, just because I'm so much happier doing this and makes me feel so much more fulfilled.
Can I also say one thing that I think kind of goes underlooked when discussing labor, specifically what we do for our jobs? You can have like a good job. Let's say you get like right out of college, you're making $100,000 a year as a data analyst, let's just say. Mm-hmm. And you go into your cube, you don't have to talk to anybody. You can listen to your podcast. You got 3 monitors. You're just chugging away and you're doing your job. There's actually like a sunk cost to that because you're actually not interacting with people. You're not networking. You're not getting to know other people in other walks of life that could possibly have value to you. I didn't realize the value of being social. Like when we were younger, you had like your social kids, the popular kids, then you had your like socially awkward kids or what have you, the spectrum, right?
Sure.
In high school or elementary school, and even somewhat in university, it didn't really matter that much where you were in this social hierarchy, right? Because at the end of the day, you're all doing the same things, and you're not necessarily getting paid for it, so like who cares? The second you go into the quote-unquote real world, it's immensely important.
It's everything.
You have to work substantially harder if you're an introvert than you do if you're an extrovert by virtue of not knowing people. And not knowing people limits opportunities that you will see throughout your life. And luck is a mathematical equation of opportunity and preparation. So you can be the most prepared, most intellectual, most whatever you want to say. But But if you're just the data analyst making, a healthy salary and you enjoy your 3-4% a year and you kind of hunker down and this is good, I'll just do this for the rest of my life. The opportunity cost of the choices you made are astronomically unquantifiable because you never even gave it a chance.
Right.
Who knows what you could have been? Yet you see these guys that are like, what role in America has the vastest delta between earning potential and IQ? It's sales. You'll get some of the dumbest motherfuckers.
Oh, for sure.
Going to sales, making the most amount of money because it's a soft skill. It's not taught in schools the way mathematics, history, and all these other things are.
Yeah.
But it's a skill set unto its own because knowing people has always been fortuitous since the dawn of man.
It's my business in a nutshell.
Yeah, just knowing people.
Yeah.
So I often tell people, like, when I talk to younger people and they're like, what should I go to school for? What should I do this for? What should I do that for? The number one thing I tell them is like, go out and meet people and be friendly and get them to like you and get them to see your value. Speak confidently. Show them that, hey, I'm here to play ball. If you ever need a guy if you're ever looking for labor and you need someone that's a go-getter, I'm your man.
Yeah. Because
you never know when that phone call will come and you never know like when you need to jump on an opportunity. And I've been, 2 times in my life in the last 10 years, there's been a phone call that's come through that if I, was at home playing video games or fucking around and doing stupid shit, I wouldn't have picked up the phone. I wouldn't have been able to jump on those opportunities. I wouldn't be here where I am today. And I can't stress that enough. Like, a lot of my success is like hard work, due diligence, all that other bullshit. And most of it is fucking luck. I was there for the opportunities when they presented themselves. I'm not too big to describe that or to, admit that. By the way, there seems to be a correlation between hard work and preparation and luck. So I'm just saying that too,
100%.
But
I could narrow my shit down to a couple decisions I made.
A couple good decisions.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. A couple people that I met. Really, it's relationships. It's a couple people that I made that changed my life.
Did you choose to get into real estate because you knew someone who was gravitating you towards that? Or was that a choice you made in isolation?
Well, yes. So I was working at the electric place, just delivering shit, listening to podcasts. I did that for about 8 months. No idea what I was going to do with my life. My grandma is 83 years old, 83 or 84. And she's still a licensed real estate agent. Her and my grandpa had a very, very successful business, especially in like the South County area. And she still does a couple deals a year, but she talked me into getting my license basically. And we have the same last name. She's like, I still love to pass off some of my clients to you, and I've helped out a couple.
Set you up right.
We haven't. She still is taking those clients for now, but. We'll get there eventually. She doesn't have a ton of money. I'm not trying to take anything from
time is not on her side.
I'm not trying to take business from my grandma. I'm at the point now where I'm doing all right on my own. I'm doing all right on my own. And but anyway, she talked me into getting my license, and this was, I think I got my license in September of 2019 is when I got it. But I really didn't.
What's that process like, if you don't mind me asking?
It's a 72-hour. Course, which I took like a hybrid course that was like half in person, half online. So you take the class and then you pass. Then you have to pass a test at the end of the class, which is if you showed up to all the classes, like it was easy. But then you have to take a licensing exam it was pretty tough for sure. It's 140 something multiple choice. Now 100 of those questions are. National. So there's 2 portions of the test. There's a national portion and a state portion. Like 100 of those questions are the national portion. The other like 40 something are specific to Missouri. And she said, the teacher that I took the class, she's like, 50% of you guys are gonna fail the state the first time and pass the national. Now I fell into that, so I passed the national, failed the state, and then went back 2 weeks later, took the state and passed it.
Is there any limit to how many times you can take the test?
No, you can take it. I think you can take it as many times as you want. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I just went back, studied the state specific ones and passed it. And then after that, I was like, all right, what do I do now? And I was kind of working with my grandma for a little bit, but like I said, she's in her 80s and doing things. She's not out there hungry looking for clients and stuff.
She's riding off into the sunset.
Exactly.
Busy, and just doing what makes her happy.
Right. Exactly. So, but then one of my buddies from Finney's, who's still one of my good friends, I was with him last night. Basically introduced me to my buddy Alex Fairbanks, who's out in California. And Alex had just moved from St. Louis out to like the Sacramento area, and he basically kind of like took me under his wing. He's 2 years younger than me, but had been in the business for 6 years, like throughout college. He was selling real estate for Sotheby's, And, you know, he kind of took me under his wing and really like showed me the ropes. He was like trying to keep a business alive here while he was getting his business started out there. You know, so a lot of his clients here hadn't really, hadn't.
Forgive me.
Yeah.
Just for transparency, when you say clients, what does that mean?
People that are reaching out to him that want to buy, sell, or invest in real estate.
Got you. So it could be someone who's previously bought a home for him,
or it could be someone who's like a lead, you know,
Okay.
like someone who called him like, hey, you sold my buddy a house, or hey, I saw, you know, your name came up on Google, or whatever it is.
So a client could be an institutional investor. It could be
a first-time home buyer. It could be, you know, Susie and Bill's, you know, kids went off to college and they want to sell their old house and downsize into a small ranch. You know, it could be something like that. It could be anything. So Alex was like, I'm still trying to, you know, kind of keep my business alive in St. Louis, but, you know, I really need boots on the ground there because, you know, in real estate, you can do it virtually, but you need someone in person.
You're going to lose that interpersonal, man.
Yes, I agree.
I want to at least feel like you care that I'm trying to buy or sell my home.
Exactly. So you need someone boots on the ground. And, you know, so you need people there for showings. You need people there for inspections, final walkthroughs, closings. And so I was kind of that guy for him when we first, and he was kind of training me. And so, you know, that first year he kind of took me under his wing and was, you know, him and I were splitting the deals that would have been his clients if he were here. So if they called him and, you know, if he was here, he would have taken care of them. We basically split that 50-50. And then everything else that I procured myself. And he showed me how to do that, how to prospect, how to find people, how to, you know, put myself out there. And
mentored you.
Yeah, 100%. And so that first year, him and I did, I think I sold 32 houses my first year, and his, I think 16 of those were with 14 of those were with Alex, and then the other 18 were.
Can we harp on that point though for a brief moment, if you don't mind?
Sure.
That mentorship aspect. How successful do you think that first year of real estate would have been without him?
None. I would have not known what to do, man. Like, there's so many things that I still do to this day that I learned within that first 6 months.
When you look at the younger generation and some of the pillars of success that they see, one of the things that kind of strikes me as odd is this lack of mentorship. Like, hard work is in there, intelligence, go-getting, attitude, and all that other stuff, but mentorship seems to be something that they're not seeing the value of. And I can only attest for myself as well. It wasn't until I was kind of taken under the wing of a much more older, much more established, much more wise, older guy. Dude, my life flourished.
100%.
It's more about, they say intelligence is learning from your mistakes, but wisdom is learning from someone else's. And it's like, they'll tell you, hey, don't make that right, make this left, because I did that when I was your age and I ate shit.
Yeah.
And you just save yourself so much time, so much money, so much heartache, so many things that could go wrong that could probably maybe steer, like, think of it this way. Maybe if you didn't have this mentor and you didn't sell a house for like the first 6 months, 7 months, 8 months.
Yeah.
You start to think to yourself, like, man, maybe
can I do this?
For me.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't do this.
Maybe
like,
you just leave real
I don't
estate
have any money coming in. Like, fuck, we need to do something.
And how many people have had like that short-term success kind of paused to month 6, month 7th, and now they're starting to doubt themselves in month 3, month 4, and like, who knows what they could have been if they would have just stuck through it. But you can't also blame them for quitting.
Sure.
So that mentor could be that pillar that isn't necessarily, sexy, because it's not an internal thing, right? Like hard work, intelligence, that's all, I can do all that. But a mentor is like, that's an outside variable, and I hope I have that.
Yeah.
But it goes back to the thing that I said earlier about being that person who networks, being that social animal, being that person that, like,
how do you think I found that mentor?
Yeah. But you also have to be someone of high. I always say that, like, not every successful man is good, but good men tend to be successful. And that's because high moral character tends to attract other people of high moral character. And if people want to be around you, suddenly you're like the social animal, and then that kind of begets itself in terms of success. So it's like, let me ask you this: like, how many like drug dealers / gang members / violent criminals do you hang out with?
None.
Would you consider them like low moral characters? So you don't want to be
for the most part, yeah.
I do. I do. I'll say it. You know what I mean?
I mean, I've hung out with my fair share of drug dealers in the day, back in the day, but
doing the Lord's work at the time.
But
there's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah,
I guess what I'm trying to say is it makes sense when you take a step back and you look.
Yeah.
When you're in the shit, you're so far in the weeds, you kind of don't like look up to see the landscape. But then, like, once you're taking a couple steps back, you look back and you're like, oh yeah, of course this was the path.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things that I often say this because I'm mentoring younger people now, and like some of the things that I was told, I'm now regurgitating, and I'm seeing how that ladder kind of you know, the older generation could have taken that ladder up from underneath them and then made my life a living hell. But because they didn't, I was able to climb 3 or 4 steps a little easier than I should have. And then if I do the same thing for the next generation, they'll probably surpass me by the time they're my age. And then that's kind of like how humanity, this is like getting very macro. That's kind of how humanity progresses, right? It's like,
For sure.
they struggled with step 1, they got to step 2. They showed me how to not struggle on step 1, so I didn't have to waste all that time. Got to step 2, surpassed it, got to step 3. I'm doing the same thing now. Hey, here's step 1, step 2. You're going to struggle on step 3, but you'll get to step 4. And then maybe after I die, whatever. But that's how we kind of swing this pendulum of prosperity. And I know it sounds stupid, like something as little as mentorship. But that's literally where it starts. Like your
100%.
father or mother was your first mentor. Maybe a teacher is your second mentor. Maybe, a business partner could be a third mentor, a coach, or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
We've had mentors throughout our life. And it's just something that I think people need to kind of look for the same way they look for opportunities within themselves. Look for opportunities outside of yourselves.
Well, what do you think?
Who around you can teach you?
What do you think prevents people from finding mentors?
Ego.
Yeah,
They think they know it all.
I think it's an ego thing. I think it's an ego thing, or I think it's people that expect, oh well, if I'm gonna work for you, I should be paid.
That's
it's like,
ego.
dude,
That's ego.
I would have done, like, just to learn the real estate. I did so much shit for free. Like I've told them, I was like, man, I'll do anything. I just want to learn. Like
Yeah.
I want to figure this out.
Or when someone offers you, like, one of the reasons I started a podcast was because if I ask someone, hey, Zach, like, come have a dinner with me. Let me pick your brain for 2 hours. You'd be like, hey, brother, I got a wife. I'm not interested, right? You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
But if I tell you, hey, Zach, come on to a podcast, now I can have a discussion with you about in-depth in-depth issues or things that are on my mind, or we started with real estate,
Yes.
right? And it's kind of like this cordial environment where we can talk with one another and kind of, you asked me some questions, I extended to you some of the things that I knew, I asked you some questions, you extended some of the things that you knew, and we'll both leave this conversation being better for it. There's some things you've learned, there's some things I've learned. I think where people kind of eat their own foot with their own ego is that they think that their time is super valuable. And it is. It's your most prized commodity. But do not make the mistake of thinking it is more valuable than other people's. When a CEO, when a business owner, when someone more successful than me calls me out to dinner, I call my wife and I say, hey, watch the kid tonight.
we got it.
Because this guy's about to give me 2 hours of his time and he's $3,000 an hour. For me to get this guy on a podcast will cost me $6,000.
Yeah.
And he's giving it to me for free. This is an opportunity. And I've taken every single one of those. Like, hey, we're going to the country club. Hey, we're going to the bar. We're going to Hot Shots. And it's like, millionaires. I don't care what the scenario is. If you will give me your ear, or if you will sit there and have a drink with me and talk with me and all that, I can't express to you how hard it is to put a dollar value on that. You don't know everything. You don't know everyone. In fact, the better off you are is if you realize you don't know shit.
100%. Yeah.
You're dumb. You're
Shooting to be
stumbling
the
through
dumbest
life.
person in the room, man.
Let someone else guide you until you figure out your own path.
Yes.
So
Couldn't agree
also
more.
bias. That's what worked for me. For someone else, maybe they were like the extreme go-getter, the 1% of humanity. By all means, you don't have to follow my path. But for 99% of you others,
Right.
you know what I mean? I'm an average guy. I've never said anything different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%.
Forgive me, but because we were talking about how you got into real estate, it was more of like kind of kind of like the breadcrumbs were given to you. Like,
Yeah.
you come
Oh,
this
for sure.
way.
Yeah.
And then
Grandma
you
was like,
found a
"Hey,
mentor.
you should get your license." I think you don't. You're kind of at this place where you kind of put all your eggs in this restaurant basket, and then that you kind of walked away from
Scrambled those
that, and
eggs.
I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" I scrambled those eggs, and now I'm like, "Fuck, what do I do now?" Do I try to do something with a psychology degree? Do I start applying for jobs? What do I really want to do? And then I looked at what real estate could be. It's like, okay, well, it's because after being the one of the owners at the restaurant, like I got a taste of that like entrepreneur like kind of spirit, and I was like, that's what I really like. I want to be in control of my own destiny and like have control of my life. Like I don't want someone telling me that I have to be stuck in this building from 9 to 5, and like I don't want to feel like I'm handcuffed to a desk chair. Like, and that was something that that really made me gravitate toward real estate. And
You ever hear Jeremy Johnson's quote?
No.
He goes, entrepreneurship is a job where you will work 60-hour weeks so that you don't have to work 40-hour
Yes.
weeks.
Oh, very true.
And I was
100%.
like, that's honest.
It's very true. Because it's rare. It's hard for me to like quantify how much I actually work. I've always like wanted to like, like
Do a
just
time
carry a
sheet.
fucking stopwatch around all day, and just like every time I'm on my phone answering emails or text messages or on the phone.
Does it feel like work?
No, but it doesn't. That's the thing. Part. It doesn't. If I'm sitting on the couch at 9:30 at night watching me and my wife are watching our show, and one of my clients sends me a Zillow link for the house that they're interested in for me to like pull up all the details and shit like right there. Yeah, am I working technically? But like, does it feel like work? Not really. Like I don't mind just sitting there on my phone, looking up this house. Okay, yeah, we can set that showing up tomorrow. It looks like it's available at this time. Like it doesn't feel like work to me, because it's like, oh, I like going to look at houses. It's fun to go look at real estate. Like I've gotten to I know this. I've gotten to really over this past 5 years. I've gotten to know this city like the back of my hand. And
do you think the passion stems from success, or would you still have the same passion without the success? Because this is something that
that's a good question.
When I mentor kids, I tell them, don't chase what you're passionate about. Chase success. Because then once you're successful, you can do what you're passionate about.
Right.
I have all these kids that tell me like, I'm going to go into this, I'm going to go into that. I go, okay, well, what are your job options out there? Like what value you can provide to society through this method? And I often tell them, I was like, I know a bunch of people that went for what they were passionate for, and they were never able to do it because then they had to work 2 different jobs or 3 different jobs just to make ends meet. Mm-hmm. They're doing a bunch of shit they don't want to do because they were chasing the thing they wanted to do. By all means, I want everyone to chase their passions, but I think what needs to come first is financial stability.
100%, bro.
Make money, then do what you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, when I talked to my mentor for the first time, he was like very quick to tell me like how much money he made last year, and I was like, holy shit, man. Okay, well, he's only.
Why do you think he did that?
Well, because it fucking motivated the fuck out of me. I was like, oh man, I want to make multiple 6 figures a year. Like that's sick. Like I'd love to. And then I was like, show me how to do that, and he did. Like it's great. And I wouldn't change that for the world. I think that's a good question. I think the financial success is extremely, because I don't, if I was making, $15 an hour selling houses, I don't know if I'd be doing it.
Then real estate's a bad job.
Yeah.
And the salary, it's not a bad job, it's the salary.
Yeah, that's true.
I love this circular logic. It all leads back to no bad jobs, only bad salaries.
No, that's I love that. It's true. I never thought about it like that, but
it's the same thing that I've thought about myself, because I went into school for finance, and I used to think the reason I went for finance was I started as an accounting major, and within the first semester I realized that it wasn't for me, because accounting was all debits and credits, general ledger, like this is the golden path, never stray from it. And me as an individual, I'm like, this is just like, it is counter to my very being. I'm very like, let's fucking go, boys. Whatever the path is, we'll figure it out. So I went for finance because it was kind of rubbing at odds. Like the majority of my very first job as a business plan analyst was like kind of arguing with accounting. Mm-hmm. Like they would tell me like, Ariane, you're kind of stretching gap principles here. I go, well, here's why I'm not. Like basically telling them like, no, you're wrong. We're going to report this to the SEC, because I was working for a publicly traded company. Okay. And I kind of loved it until I didn't. For the first 2 years, it was like almost like Wolf of Wall Street kind of type. Like we were just fucking having fun. It was a lax atmosphere. And then it changed. And when it changed, I realized I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be working, 3 people's jobs for one. It wasn't the job. Downsizing. They kept the best analysts. They got rid of the worst ones. And once again, it wasn't the job. It was the amount of work and the salary. If they would have taken those 3 other analysts, fired them, and given me their salaries, and I was working 70-hour weeks for $300,000, I wouldn't have said anything. And I'd probably still be working in finance. But they did that and only gave me like a $10K bump. And I was like, you guys are out of your fucking mind. Yeah, my portfolio went from $80 million a quarter when I first started to like $640 million a quarter when I ended.
Fuck.
Let me put it this way. There was one quarter specifically where I saved the company in our revenue recognition model because we signed an SOW, and I found a loophole in which we could attach the new one with the POC of the old one. So we made like an extra $20 million in revenue recognition, which brought us over our like expected revenue earnings, and our stock went up like 3%. So like little Ariane, 24 years old in Chesterfield, Missouri, did that. And anyway, when I got out of finance because of that and I went to information systems, it was really kind of reinforcing that like there is no golden path, because now I went from like a finance, which was slightly different from accounting, and that's what I got my degree in, is finance. Okay. But information systems was like completely different. It's like, hey, write this script, write this code. You need to get to this end goal of whatever the report is or what have you, or automation purposes. Have fun. And that's my job now. It's like, we have a problem, have fun. Because no one knows how to do my job. I don't have like a mentor that can mentor me in this individual task. Because writing code is writing code. It's like, it's logic. It's how you kind of want to navigate a problem. You can navigate it 10 different ways to get to the answer. What's the most efficient? Or what's maybe, you provide to me what you want, but do you know what you don't want? Do you know the value underneath the value that you're asking for? That's why I get paid what I get paid.
Sure.
Not for me to tell you what you want to hear, for me to tell you the things that you didn't even know existed that you wanted to hear. So it's been very fortuitous for my life. It's changed my life completely. Yeah. And but to go back to like the mentality of like, I wanted to be a teacher.
Really?
Yeah. When I was in high school, I was like, I'm really passionate. I like numbers, and I want to teach. I wanted to be a math teacher. Huh. Math teachers made $40,000 a year. I was like, oh,
dude, I had a similar thing. I told everybody when I was a kid I wanted to be a firefighter.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and I found out what firefighters made, and I was like,
and how much they have to work and all these.
Yeah, and I was like, I want to make more money than that.
Not a bad job.
Yeah, no, not a bad
salary.
Job. No, I just want to. I'd love to do that, but I was like, oh man, hang out in a firehouse, work, lift weights whenever we're not fighting fires, hang out with all the boys, like it sounds great,
And by the way, I do want to say something. I am not shitting on any job.
No,
teachers,
no, me
firefighters, whatever. It just
no.
I just looked at the investment that I would have to do, and did the payoff justify it? And to me, it didn't. We often talk about like the student debt crisis. Well, how is it that someone could go in for a profession that makes $50,000 a year, but they're able to take $100,000 in debt? It's like, what are we doing here, guys? Right? We need to change the system. I have some. Normally, I'm pretty conservative on a lot of things, but on the student debt crisis, I do kind of give a little leeway because I'm like, you were young, someone was giving you money when they shouldn't have.
It's just the way that
it's tough. It's tough.
It's tough because it's like, man, when you're that young and you have someone that comes in and you walk up to one of these. You apply for one of these student loans, and they're just going to give it to you. You have no idea.
I don't even know if there's a real application process.
Well, no,
I want to go to this school for this major. Sure.
I don't remember like even talking to anybody about it, but
it's all online.
Yeah.
What loan can you do that's all online and you never have to pick up the phone and talk to like
dude, no,
a representative of some kind?
Right, none.
Dude, I did a business loan once for like I think $20,000, which by the way for a loan is like
small,
nothing,
small
right?
Potatoes,
I had to go like through like 3 different people. I had to show all this stuff. Meanwhile, when I was young and I wanted like $10,000 a year for UMSL, they're like, "Here you go, kid.
Take it."
I was
take
like, "What?"
Yeah,
because you can't file bankruptcy on it.
Right. You got to pay it back no matter what, which is crazy.
I think the easiest way to do it is you cap it at 1% because it's a fixed income, right? Like they can't file bankruptcy on it, so there's no risk. And interest usually is depicted by a couple of macroeconomic factors, but the number one is risk. How risky are you? Right. Well, if there's no risk of
repayment, then
you can garnish their wages. You can do it.
They got to pay it back.
Student loan debt is something you can garnish Social Security checks from.
It's like the only thing, right?
Yeah, it's insane. But to go back to, I was going to be a math teacher, but then I looked at the income and I was like, I was going to go to Mizzou. Why would I go to Mizzou, leave with $100,000 in debt? I'm only making $40,000 a year. I won't pay that debt off until I'm 40.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, well, go get your master's and acquire more debt or go get your doctorate. Like you have to a doctor in education nowadays to make 6 figures in education. And it's like, insane. God bless the people that do. We need you, but it's, you're a better person.
They should make a lot more money. I think my wife's a teacher, and the amount of shit that she deals with on a weekly basis.
You're a psychologist. You're a parent.
She's a special ed teacher too.
Oh, God bless.
I don't know how she does it.
Brett Otten was just on. We haven't aired the episode yet, but that's what he does now too.
Really?
He used to be a journalist, and now he's a special education teacher.
She's been doing this her 9th year teaching. She loves it. I mean, she's amazing at it, But I hear the kind of stuff that she deals with on a weekly basis, and I'm just like, honey, I don't know how you do that.
How'd you two meet?
High school.
Oh, high
school.
We're
friends in high school. Yeah, we've been together 14 years.
Good. Oh, God bless, man. Me and my wife, we knew each other from high school as well, but we didn't date until we were 25.
Really?
Yeah. I hit her up with "You look good" at New Year's.
Yeah.
Now we have a baby.
Now you have a baby. Yeah, we just met through a friend, and I think it was sophomore year of high school. We really did, but we kind of talked on and off, throughout high school, but then we started dating
Did you guys go to university together?
Yeah.
Okay, that helps.
So at the time we both, we started dating. Yeah, it was around Christmas break. It was in Christmas break, our senior year, and at the time we both knew that we were going to the same college. So I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. I was like, I'm not gonna start a boyfriend girlfriend relationship with
senior year when we're both
about to separate. I was like, it makes sense because we're both going to the same place. So we stuck together all through college. We broke up for a day and a half or 2 days, and I think it was my sophomore or junior year. I'm around all my buddies and they're all single. Oh, be single. It was kind of like
Fuck
a be
that bitch,
yeah,
man.
exactly. And then I got drunk one night. It was during spring break.
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, and I called, I called her, I miss you, like I was like all hammered one night, and then, just fucking,
Every man has to eat shit. We just choose the plate.
100%, and so, yeah, we've been together for, 14 years, man. So.
And how old is your oldest now?
2.5.
And then your youngest, you just had 5 months?
5 months, yeah. So 2.5, 5 months. Yeah, it's awesome. It's amazing. It's
fatherhood.
Dude, it's great. It's a lot of work. It's I'm constantly inundated with surprises, and we just we got our 2.5-year-old like completely potty trained now, which is pretty cool. So that's been
we're working on that with my daughter.
That's been it was he caught on to it real quick. We did what's called the poop fairy. The poop fairy comes whenever he goes potty on the toilet, and so my son's obsessed with trains, and my wife was at like some it's like one of those sales that they do. They had one up the street from our house where it's like people bring your shit. It's like a giant garage sale, but it's like all at one place. People just like bring shit that they don't want anymore, and like anyway, she went up there, and he's obsessed with trains, like Thomas the Train, and there was like this suitcase basically like full of. It was like probably like the size of like a laptop case, and they're like these little trains that are like this big, like an inch tall for you guys that are listening. And anytime he would pee on the toilet, we'd give him a little, the poop fairy, would knock on the door, and there'd be a train outside his door, and so that like that's motivated the fuck out of him.
Positive affirmation.
Yes,
Ariana's a very negative affirmation now. You're gonna shit, or there'll be problems.
Yeah. So, but dude, it worked, and we did that for probably like probably 3 or 4 weeks, and then eventually we did the whole. Have you heard this thing where you just let them run around naked for a weekend?
No, why?
Yeah, so that's to potty train because
they don't have a diaper.
They're aware. Yeah, they don't have a diaper. So so we did that.
We was envisioning like a little 2.5-year-old with his wee out.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was because like they're aware. So you just like let them run around.
He does it. It's cute. I do it. I'm a sex offender.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, you just let them run around the house naked for like a whole weekend, and
Did you have to clean up a bunch?
Dude, he's had 2 accidents since we've started this.
We got this little potty seat for Adriana, and it is the most adorable fucking thing. Which is like, Daddy, I have to poopy.
Yeah.
So we walk into the bathroom, and like we drop her underwear and everything. She sits, and then she's like, all done. I'm like, you just sat down.
Yeah.
And she's like,
yeah.
So she didn't poop.
Yeah.
She just wanted to sit on the chair.
Oh, dude, he fucks with you all the time. Like, Daddy, I gotta put in, dude. And it was like the other morning, he did it like 4 times. He's like, and he'd like go and sit in there and just like sit for a minute. And I'm like, okay, you gonna go? And he's like, no, I'm done. And then, but by the 4th time he went, and I'm like, well, all right, you're not just
maybe
fucking with me.
Maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I need to kind of keep with the repetition. Yeah. I'm like, oh, she's just playing games.
No, that's what it was. It was like they took the 4th time before he went. And I was like, okay, well, because eventually I'm like, all right, we'll go again. We'll go set him on there.
If you don't want to answer this question, you don't have to. But did you get all the vaccines for your kid?
I mean, some of them, not all of them.
Yeah, same.
Same. I was picky and choosy about,
well,
like I didn't do the COVID or any of that bullshit.
I told our pediatrician, I was like, at the very least, we're gonna stagger these.
Yeah.
Because you're telling me like it was at like her 6-month checkup. First of all, if we have our second kid, there are gonna be some things that I do a little differently. Thank God that nothing happened with Adriana in terms of like learning disabilities and any of these things. But I hear horror stories from parents, and they talk about vaccinations and like. Mm-hmm. I took my kid in, they got 6 shots, now they can't speak or whatever, you know what I mean? And it was like one of these things where I really felt the weight of fatherhood because I was like, if I don't get these vaccines and something happens, it's my fault.
Right.
But if I do get these vaccines and something happens, it's my fault. You know what I mean? I'm like, fuck. So the thing I told myself was like, okay, let's just stagger some of these. Instead of taking 6 shots, we'll take a shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It seems to be, at least for me, anecdotally, like she seems to resonate well with them. I just, I've heard so much and I've seen so much from kids that have gotten them. I would never sit here and tell people to not vaccinate their kids or vaccinate their kids. I think you as a parent, do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Yeah.
But I do think that the schedule for them is just rigorous, man.
Well, dude, why are we giving our kids, like, why are we giving them hepatitis shots like the fucking day that they're born?
Yeah,
I'm like,
within
bro,
72
like,
hours
what
of them being
the fuck?
born.
Like,
I didn't even know
you get hepatitis from unprotected
sexually
sex
transmitted
and needles.
Or blood.
Like, why would my brand new baby be experiencing either of those? Like that's the question I had, and they don't really have an answer for you. Like it's
the only reason I asked this is because with Trump being elected and RFK Jr. being made like Department of Health. I'm interested to see. I just want transparency. If I'm wrong about election integrity, about vaccines, about food, about this, tell me I'm wrong with something that's like substantial and can be measured. But if I'm right, I want to know that as well. I just want to know the truth. I don't have like a horse in the race of like, I don't want to tell anybody I told you so. And I don't care if everybody's telling me that I'm an idiot. I just want to know the truth on these things because I think it's better off going forward. That you cannot tell me that vaccines are safe because you don't know if they are by virtue of you've never tested them with a double-blind placebo test. So you can't tell me that vaccines are safe. You cannot make that argument. You can't. You also can't tell me that our elections are 100% bulletproof because you're not looking for fraud. There's no Department of Election Integrity because each state has its own like election apparatus. And I talk with people at the federal level who are actively looking into the 2020 election even more now after 2024.
Dude, that's crazy.
Because there's a bunch of shit that doesn't pass the eye test.
Yeah,
right?
dude, like all the votes for Biden, there was like
where did 8 million votes go?
Yeah,
why are the only states Democrats are winning non-voter ID states?
Right.
You know, when Pennsylvania doesn't allow after election day voting or the mail-in ballots have to have the signature requirements on them, suddenly there's like I think the delta in Pennsylvania now is like 200,000 for Trump. It's just, I'm not saying that correlation equals causation. What I'm saying is, I don't know.
Right.
I want to know. Do you not want to know?
Of course I want to know.
Do you want to know if vaccines are safe? Do you want to know if our elections are safe and secure? Do you want to know what open source accounting would look like in our federal government? I would like to know these things.
Yeah, I would love to know where all my tax dollars are going.
Yeah, there's transparency for me.
Give me an invoice. I want to see I would love to know where I would love to see what every dollar I paid you guys went to.
If I went on some Reddit, black web Reddit message board and started spewing some terrorist shit, there'd be some FBI agent on my ass.
100%.
Right?
They'd be knocking on your front door.
Yeah, these people can do whatever the fuck they want without repercussion of any sort. That's honestly why I voted for Trump more than anything. I actually don't even care about like his like economic policies or anything like that. I just love that it's an upset to the establishment and it's some sort of accountability somehow, some way. Yeah, the chosen queen was not elected. Thank God.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. I was like the whole. I'm totally for, the whole drain the swamp thing, and getting all the people.
The problem is you can't.
Well, not all of it, but
not full time.
Right.
You want to know how I think the solution is? What they do with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy.
Oh,
the best and brightest of our country are already busy being millionaires and billionaires because they're running industries, they're creating prosperity and products for the average consumer. So who do you have left? I often say that you're not every politician, but the majority of politicians are the losers and rejects of the private sector. They couldn't make
why would you want to go?
That's not to say military personnel, police, firefighters, these are completely different like occupations, right? Like if you're going in for like enlisting, you're not a fucking loser. But if you're like a career politician, you've done nothing but politics because you tried to like work at some investment bank and you were too fucking dumb and this is like your life path, forgive me if I don't trust your acumen or your judgment or any of these things. And if all you've ever done is siphon from the government to eat your whole life, just understand you've never made a dollar. You've taken a dollar.
Sure.
Nothing wrong with that as long as you understand that. You've never built a job. You've never built prosperity. You've received prosperity. You're welcome. And that's why I love Tom Holland when he's sitting up there in the Judicial Commission and they're like grilling him and he's like, "You work for me. I'm your boss. You work for me. I pay your salary. Never get it fucking twisted." God bless that guy.
Dude.
I went down a dark hill. Hill.
It.
Sorry. But we were just talking about the vaccines with kids, and I'm going to bring it back because I went down a rabbit hole. Forgive me. There's just a lot of things that I would love transparency on. And I feel like at the individual level, when you do your taxes, when you're trying to buy something, they look at you with like a fucking magnifying glass, right? Yet there are some people where both eyes are turned blind, and I just think that's unfair. And I think it's actually criminal, to be honest with you. What do you think of some of the appointments from Trump, out of curiosity?
Oh, I'm pumped, man.
Yeah.
I'm pumped about RFK. I'm pumped about Tulsi. I mean, Vivek and Elon with the department. Yeah, Doge. Yeah,
government efficiency.
Yeah, dude, I think it's great. I'm so excited to see what's going to happen. And
I don't have any faith in actual change because a lot of these things take a lot of time and it depends on how much teeth these departments actually have. And it's kind of an oxymoronic thing to like create another department in order to like
eliminate departments
efficiency. Yeah. So, But, you know, I mean,
well, what I like is that he's not this career, you know, he's already been there. So, you know, and I think he knows the mistakes that he made when he was in there before. I mean, he's openly said that he's
forever.
Yeah, democracy's dead. We're never
An
going to have to vote again.
82-year-old man
who
has a better chance dying in office is going to be our Führer forever.
Right, he's our Führer. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen because
Have you seen some of the blowback from Democrats?
Oh my God, it's all, yeah, yes, I have for sure.
Where do you stand on that? Do you think conservatives should take the path where they're kind of like, I told you so, and put it in their face, or do you think they should be the bigger people and kind of like welcome them back with open arms?
I think they should be the bigger people and welcome back because I don't think that solves anything. I think that because that's the one problem the biggest problem I see with Trump is just the animosity that he's created, the divisive nature of our country right now, you know, between the Democrats and the Republicans, and it just seems like, you know, everybody's so on edge right now. So I think if everybody kind of had the, you know, the mentality of, you know, like, hey, you know, like, check it out, like it's gonna get better, or like hope, you know. And that's, I heard I was listening to Andrew Schultz podcast the other day, and I think he had I think he had a great take on it, and it was like whether they lost or whether you wanted Trump to win or you wanted Kamala to win, like now, all right, here's where we are now. Trump won, so like you should be rooting for the country to do well, like you know. And that's where I think most people should be.
When Biden got elected in 2020, I was upset, but I never said like he's not my president.
Yeah,
I never thought about like oh, I'm gonna move out of America. When people say that,
dude,
shit,
do you have any idea how good we have it here compared to? I know
Zach, I do.
I know you do because you're, you know, I've listened to a couple of your episodes, and I know you know, your parents are from a, you know,
ex-communist state.
Exactly, and it's, you know, you would know more than me for sure. We've got it pretty fucking good here.
I was very little, thank God. I don't know communism that well. All I know is my dad would tell me stories, and I remember how when I was little, you know, he would tell me things, and my mom would tell me things, and I was like, because all I knew was America. You know what I mean? I was like,
were you born here? Right?
No, I wasn't born here. I was born in Albania, but by the time we moved to America, I was like 3.5, 4 years old. So like,
so you don't really remember
consciousness is like, I remember some of Greece.
Sure.
Because we fled Albania. So we won the immigration lottery. When communism fell in Albania, there was an immigration lottery because they were so afraid that like there would be mass exodus from the country, and it kind of create this like power vacuum where like other states would just kind of come in and cede territory. So what the government did was they were like, listen, we know that there's like a lot of fuckery right now, but like we're gonna kind of keep these borders in. By the way, fun fact, you know, America's like the only one that needs a border to keep people out, while other countries need borders to keep people in. But what they did was they did an immigration lottery, and if you wanted to leave the country, you could. And that was like their way to kind of like allow for exodus, but like in a manageable rate, right? So before I was just born, I was maybe like 1 or 2 months old, and we won the immigration lottery, and it's a use it or lose it thing. Like if you want to move, now's the time. Yeah. So you know, they packed everything up, and we went to Greece. We actually immigrated to Greece illegally. Fun fact: we were illegal immigrants in Greece because you had to leave Albania, but we didn't have time to like. That was the thing, right? You don't have time to get.
Yeah, you can leave, but you got to figure all this. You know, it's like.
Luckily for us,
now why Greece? Is that
just like physical location?
Yeah,
like,
is that logistically?
Yeah, Greece was never under the Iron Curtain, so we didn't want to go to any of the stands that had a lot of the similar issues. We wanted to go to like a capitalist nation, right? There was jobs. There was my dad could work, you know, and there was a lot of other people fleeing there. So like. It just seemed like the right path at the time. And you have to think this was like before the internet and everything. So like, if you don't have multiple means of communication, anecdotal evidence tends to be like your North Star, right? It's like, okay, I heard from 2 people that Greece has jobs. We're going to Greece.
Yeah, I know him over there. He's in Greece. He's having a good time.
They didn't say anything about Bosnia or what have you, which also was like an ex-Slav state, right? So it was one of those scenarios. But my uncle lived in Florida because my uncle, Nick, he's a real OG. He swam the sea to flee Albania in communist times. Had he been caught, he would have been shot, and he could have easily drowned in the sea. What? Yeah, dude, he's the O fucking G. Fuck. And what's funny is because of the Communist Party, when he fled, the Communist Party of Albania actually started putting the Zekti family like under a magnifying glass. Because what they were waiting for was to see if they would flee as well. Like maybe, because they didn't know how he did it. Did he get a boat? Did he like go through the border? Like how did he do it? No one thought that he was crazy enough to just fucking swim.
How far was the swim?
Miles. But he was also like a junior Olympic swimmer. Like my Uncle Nick was a super athlete.
Okay.
And he was just like, I can do this shit.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave. It wasn't until 8 months later, or I think 6 months later, they got a postcard from Greece. And it was like, just like, hey, you know what's going on? And then the signature was like, or there was like a quote in the message that was something that my Uncle Nick used to say, or like their
So it wasn't
father,
signed
their
Nick
father
or whatever.
used to say, like a quote their father used to say all the time. And they were like, holy shit, that's Uncle Nick.
yeah.
And that's how they knew that my Uncle Nick was alive. Because for 6 months, there was no communication. There was no cell phones. No
Dude,
phone.
I got
Like,
goosebumps.
yeah. So like my parents were like, okay, Nick's dead or gone
Yeah.
or we'll never see from him again. Then they got a postcard from Greece. When my dad fled Albania and got to Greece, he had means to contact my Uncle Nick. My Uncle Nick immediately started the immigration process to get my dad and his family, ultimately me, to America. Wow. And that's how we started that process. So there is a part of me that has like sympathy for like asylum seekers. There is a part of me that has a sympathy for like the honest people that are trying to immigrate. But you can't have like you functionally
can't just have an open border.
You can't have an open border. You're not by definition a nation if you don't have like a clear succession of what is our land and what is not our land.
We need to know who's here.
Exactly.
You know, we need to, like, if you're coming, like, I'm all for people entering the country that need to be
I'm
here.
for immigration reform.
100%.
If you want to invite a million people more a year, I'm for that. Vet them accordingly.
Yes,
and that's actually something I would spend money on.
Let's not fly them to specific states and
yeah.
give them fucking $10,000 and a cell phone and a place to live.
Well, then here's the thing, though, too. If you, hot take, what do you think about the representation lines and how they're based on the census and not civilian population of citizens? Because right now,
Dude,
the big thing about, you know, the big rub that Democrats have is like, oh, well, these guys can't vote. That's not the point. Every 10 years when the census happens, they're voting by proxy because their population density now either gains or loses seats in Congress. So California can have net migration out, or net migration out of the country for the or state for the first time since its inception.
Right.
But it can keep all of its representatives based on illegal immigrants just saying that they live there.
Right.
This is that's
a problem.
It's still a problem. And when you have 20 million people, that's more than the population of some states that have representatives. So it's like when people tell me, you know, you don't need voter ID, you have not thought about this argument to conclusion.
Dude,
you realize how stupid it is.
Yeah.
And when you tell me that like illegal immigration, we just need to make them all legal, I'm like, you clearly have not thought step 2 out of step like what this would look like.
Hey, you need an ID to do everything. Why would we not need an ID to vote? It doesn't make any sense to me.
I did have an argument with an individual specifically on voter ID. And here's how I always argue with people. When I was younger, I used to want to be right. Now, I just ask questions. I let them come to the natural conclusion themselves because a lot of people don't actually go into arguments in good faith. They don't want you to be swayed by their argument. They want to be right in themselves. Like, you're wrong. Let me explain to you why you're wrong. It's not like, you're wrong, here's why, I hope you see it, and you can kind of be shed that light. And I think that in our effort to be correct, we kind of lost the empathy of teaching. And people used to argue a point. This is why I'm for gay marriage. This is why I'm against the death penalty, what have you. Now it's like, here's why you're wrong. Let me explain why you're wrong. And that's just not going to resonate with anybody because no one wants to hear why they're wrong. Oh. Like, you know, so I just ask questions. I'm like, well, why do you think voter ID is quote unquote racist? Well, you know, inner city people can't get IDs. That's not true. There's never been a study said or done that shows that inner city people cannot get IDs. Try again. Why do you think it's racist? Oh, well, okay, it's not really racist, it's classist. I go, okay, explain. Well, some people can't afford an ID. I go, the average cost of an ID across America is $8. Well, for some people, that's like the difference between, you know, dinner and you see where this kind of goes, but that's fine. I'm willing to entertain. Yeah. Okay. Well, if $8 is really the conclusion to like, you know, the difference between them eating that night or an ID, duly noted, they have a system in place where they can get an ID anyway, government subsidized at the state level in most states. It's called a non-driver's ID. It's just an identification that any citizen can go and get. And it costs the taxpayer anywhere between like $4 and $5 per person. Mm-hmm. You want to know how many people get those IDs?
How many?
Less than 1% of our population has that ID.
I believe it.
You know what I mean? So this is like the vast, and this is the problem with a lot of arguments is like in every other aspect of our lives, we say the minority is not the rule, right? It's right. Like the exception is not the rule. Forgive me. The exception is not the rule. Yet whenever we're discussing these like political matters, it's like suddenly the exception is like, well, what about, dude, if you're going to do what about on everything, what are we talking about in reality? Right. I'll give you one more example, and then we'll get off this topic, and that's abortion.
Yeah.
So I actually voted yes on Amendment 3.
I did as well.
That's the abortion law, right? Why? Because I'm a conservative fiscally, I'm socially liberal, and I don't want the government involved in my life in any aspect of my life. I don't want to get the jab. I don't want to tell you what to do with your body and those, like, that's for you and the father and what. I'm not involved in that, right? Do I think that there should be like a common metric? Yeah, of course. Like if there's like viability, I'm willing to have that argument. But like on a fundamental level, I don't think the government has any place with our bodies.
Dude, I couldn't agree more with you. Like you and I are definitely very aligned there. I'm pretty conservative in most things, pretty socially liberal. I mean, I voted the same way you did. I voted for Trump, but I also voted yes on Amendment 3. And I think ultimately, I think I'm pro freedom is really what I am. I'm pro you do whatever the fuck you want with your life. You don't tell me what to do with my life.
Live and let live.
Yes, you do whatever you want. I'll do whatever I want. As long as you're not hurting anybody. That's all I care about.
And that's where I get the backlash, because I actually, even though I'm for that, I'm actually not to a certain point. And for me, it's not about weeks. It's about viability. Can the baby live outside of the mother? If the answer is yes, then that is murder.
Yes, I agree.
It's no longer abortion to me. And here's where I kind of get that rub with people, because they say to me, like, what about incest, rape, and health of the mother? And I am for, in the instance of incest and rape,
yes,
up until that week period, if you want to get an abortion,
go for it.
Even if it's not at your health or whatever, go for it.
Yeah,
but after that,
because then you got to live with
that kid is now viable. That kid has rights the same as you and I. Health of the mother is the only exception that I would allow up until like a certain time. But then the argument gets made of like, if they can live outside of the mother, why murder them? Right? It's like even if you have to do like an emergency C-section,
you gotta make that decision.
Do what you got to do to save the mother's life. Duly noted. You know what I mean? But then do the care that is needed to then, try to give that child the best possibility of life, right? Yes. When I told people that, they're like, well, isn't that the government getting involved in all that other stuff? And then I asked them, I go, the CDC recently, I don't know if you noticed, recently came out with their abortion numbers from 2022. If you were to take a wild stab, a pie chart of abortions in America, what do you think the percentage of like elective abortions was? So like, if there was 1,000 abortions, how many of them were not incest, rape, and health of the mother?
Like 70%? No, more? 90? 95? 99?
98%.
Holy fuck.
98% were elective social abortions.
Social abortions just meaning like I'm pregnant right now and I don't want a baby.
I can't take it, what have you.
Yeah, I got too much going on. I can't.
And here's the thing. Up until a certain point, I'm actually okay with that. I do not.
Well, it's like you do whatever you want to do. Like,
don't use 2% or less. By the way, that 2% isn't even like incest, rape, and it's like some other metrics too, like some really fringe cases that make up that 2%. It's like 0.5% is health of the mother, like 0.1% was incest. You know what I mean? Like a very small number.
Small percent.
Here's the thing: you should still have the caveats because legislation should have nuance. However, you cannot use the exception for the rule, right? When I make these arguments, I get some backlash, but I oftentimes have to spend more time explaining my morality than I do the actual point. And that's why I get kind of like frustrated. It's like, I have to try to convince you that I'm not a bad person before I could ever convince you that my point is justified. Mm-hmm. And that's just like, we're not arguing in good faith.
Yeah.
And that's why when I'm arguing now, I don't make statements. I just ask questions. Well, you're up for abortion at 40 weeks. Why? Well, a woman has the right to choose. Okay. But like, if you didn't get that abortion and just did a C-section and that baby can live, why get the abortion?
Yeah, why?
Well, you can't make the woman have the baby. Fair. But why kill the baby?
Right.
And that's usually like, they don't have an answer to that one.
For sure.
Right? Like, that's where they get caught.
Well, at 40 weeks, like, who at 40 weeks is
there are people.
There
are people.
Dude, that's insane.
And here's the thing. I'm not
like, at least in my opinion. Sorry if I'm offending anybody out there, but like that just seems crazy to me. Like I don't know. You have a fully viable, but like who? And I feel like this is the abortion decision. It needs to be. I think Texas is like 6 weeks or something, which I think is absurd. It's pretty fast.
But don't you see the beauty in letting the states decide that and not having it
for
federally?
Sure? No, I totally agree.
Because I have that argument too. They're like, well, they took away the right. I go, you never explain to me in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights or our amendments where you have the right to an abortion. It's never been.
It's not there.
It was. By the way, if Congress wanted to codify it, they had the opportunity when when the Democrats had the Congress and the executive branch, similar to how the conservatives are now, if they wanted to, they could. They could have codified Roe versus Wade, because even Ruth Bader Ginsburg argued that was bad case law for the basis of abortion. Abortion's, in my opinion, not a tough one. I had a quote already. Ron Paul already solved it. It shouldn't be illegal. It should be unthinkable. But that's the problem. You have to get to the point where people think that it's unthinkable.
Yes.
Why
I
do
don't
they
think
want
it
to
should
get
be
it?
illegal, but you should be able to do it if you want to do it.
All these things.
Yeah.
Stop asking the state to get involved.
Yeah.
And get involved yourself through, like, you know, why does she want to get rid of the child? Because she's like economically in turmoil. Well, why is she economically in turmoil?
Why is she in? Yeah.
She's having, open sex with men she's not, like, in relations with, or like low morality men that will, like, leave. Well, how can we do something to the male population that will make them want to stay with the woman when she's pregnant instead of leave her? Because that's a thing too, right? It's like
100%.
I can't blame a woman for wanting to, like, abort a child when they're all alone. Yes. And they think, like, there's no way out of this, and this is going to ruin my life, and I have to do this burden. I wouldn't want to.
I can't imagine doing it by myself.
Yeah, dude, same.
Like if even doing it by myself, and then I'm very fortunate. I've got a full, both my wife's family and my family are fighting over who gets to watch the baby. Like not fighting, but like they're like they want to. Whose turn is it? Yeah, it's like, oh no, we want to. It's like they want to. They're and which is amazing for me.
Shout out to single parents.
I can't imagine I can't imagine the people out there that don't live around family, or they're single parents and they don't live around family. Like, whew, gosh, like, and you're all on your own, because it's tough raising children.
Especially the first one. The first one is you don't know what you're doing.
Yes. Second one's a little different. You think it's tough. You think one's tough until you have two, and you're like, oh. When you just have one of the two of them, you're like, oh, this is easy. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you have both of them, it's a headache.
It's man on man,
it's man on man coverage.
Man on man coverage when it's just one, But if you have two of them, like. The other day, I'm feeding one of, the 5-month-old a bottle, and then my 2.5-year-old tells me he's got to take a shit, and, I got to put him down, mid-bottle, so he's pissed that I took the bottle out of his mouth, and I'm setting him down in the pack and play while I run with the other one to go poop, and, they're screaming, and, he's screaming because he got the bottle out of his mouth, and then he's trying to poop, and it's just like, it's a mess, It's
a juggling act with humans.
Sure. It's crazy, but it's, it's controlled chaos, sort of. It's fun. I love it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. But it's having I always, trust me, I was in the same boat. Like, I thought when I had one, I was like, oh, this is crazy, But then when you have two, you're like, oh, when I've just got the one of them, it's nice,
I have a buddy that I work with, and he's like, one shapes you, two gives you an ego because you think you could handle it, three reminds you that they outnumber you.
Yes.
He's like, once you get to three, and there's no instance in which you don't have at least one, he goes, that's when the game changes. It's like 3, 4,
sure.
5.
Yeah,
I have one buddy who has 5. I'm like, dude, you're a saint of
I don't
patience.
know. Like, I'm at a point now where I'm like, man, I don't know. Is 2 enough? Like, is 2 good?
Do you want 3?
I don't know. Like, we've always said 2 or 3. Like, that's kind of like
2 boys, right?
We have 2 boys.
You want to go for a girl, or
that's the thing, is like, if we have another one, it's like there's no guarantee that it's a girl.
Yeah.
Like, trust me, I would love a little girl. Like, I would love a little princess.
Statistics would dictate that the odds that it's not a girl would be. You have a better chance of it being a girl than not being a girl, because it's like 50-50, 50-50, 50-50.
Yeah, sure, for sure.
Probability.
But there's
if you're taking it to its logical conclusion.
Yeah, but there's no guarantee, Like, obviously there's no guarantee that we have a girl in the third go.
Flip a coin.
We'll see. I don't know. Like, as of
Easy
right now.
Easy for us to say. Meanwhile, your wife is like, hey,
for sure.
Give me a second.
And we said if we are going to do another one, we're going to wait, a few years. Like, we're going to give it a little bit more of a gap, because we wanted to have like a kind of a shorter gap between 2 years apart now. Which is great, which I think is like a perfect age gap, but it's a little crazy right now.
Dude, I don't know if this is TMI, but like, we used to think that we wanted 2 under 2, but like, me and my wife now are at the point where like we can kind of like let our daughter like watch TV or like watch like a Disney movie or whatever, and then we can do our thing.
Sure.
So it's like, oh, I forgot what this was like. To just kind of like, and we want more kids for sure. I think the magic number personally is 3, but we'll see how we feel at 2. We're working on number 2 now.
Yeah.
So I'll let you know how I feel in a couple of years.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Like, it's the best thing in the world. But they were like, there's 2s. You just got to think 3 changes things. Like, the dynamic of it's not man-on-man defense. We fit comfortably in like a car. Like all these things. Like, it's just even numbers for things. It just makes things a little bit smoother. But
it actually makes me more endearing to the argument because it's like I know how hard that decision would be because I've had a kid now, right?
Yeah.
Or when Bruno was
Oh,
pregnant,
for sure.
how I felt when she was pregnant,
Yes.
I was ecstatic.
Oh, 100%.
So like I don't want to rob anyone of their decisions based that on their life because I do believe that as you govern to the lowest possible denominator, like no one can govern themselves better than themselves. Like no one knows what's best for Zach better than Zach, right? And then you have layers that just kind of gets a little, okay, so Zach now has to like govern his family and his house. Well, then who governs Zach? Well, then we have like, local municipalities and then the city and then the state and then the federal, right? So that the higher you go out, Zach becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. So like governing for that becomes more increasingly difficult. So I do like the fact that this nuanced, very controversial, very emotional issue has gone to the states. Let the people dictate. If California wants to allow up to 40 weeks and Texas has 6 weeks, then people will choose with their feet, and they will live in a place that
you can go live where you want to live.
It's the beauty. It's the beauty of the melting pot of America. Your founding fathers knew that they were going to put countries within a country, and that you were the United States of America, not the federal states, not the governed states, the united. That everyone. When you cross from Missouri to Illinois, you're almost going to another country. If you were in Europe, that'd be like the difference between
Rules
going
change.
from exactly. Yeah. So
you got to be aware of that shit. Even now with like gun laws and stuff like that, you got to be aware of what you're.
That's a little different because of amendments, right? And that's the problem
that's
too.
true, yeah.
The rub is to make an amendment, you need 2/3 of Congress, a supermajority essentially. That's tough, right? So if they made an amendment, like a federal amendment that said like abortion is now a right afforded to women in our Constitution, then who am I to say you can't have it? If 2/3 of people are saying yes, then I'm wrong. I'm the minority who's wrong, right? Our society has spoken. And that's where I kind of get this rub is like, no, I have a Second Amendment. Now you're going to need 66% of Congress to say, or to basically nullify the Second Amendment. And until you get that, fuck you, I have my rights. That is my right. I have the right to bear arms. Suck my dick.
True.
So, sorry. I did want to get to one more thing before we ended this conversation, and by no means are we like pressed on time. But one of the reasons that you and I kind of got back together because you left Finney's, you went to Watson's Martial Arts, and I stayed at Finney's.
Are you still training at Finney's?
I don't really train much at all. Now I coach more
Just
than
coach.
anything.
Wow, just coach wrestling.
I'm done with the game, and
Do you miss training? Like, do you wrestle? Do you get in
I
there
wrestle
and roll
with the
guys?
kids. Here's the problem. I have so many hours in the week. And when I was single and I could do whatever the hell I wanted, the opportunity cost for what I was deciding was low. Now, as a married man with children, with businesses, with everything else that I'm trying to do, what am I giving up for what I'm doing? I could, instead of coaching these kids, go and train. But then I'm choosing myself over a program that made me. So the way I look at it is like, I would rather be coaching and mentoring the next generation of kids because when I was 14, 15, 16, 17, I had great wrestling coaches. I had great mentors that made me. And I think that like when I'm like 90 years old, if I ever get that old, when I look back at my life, I want to think like, did I actively make a beneficial difference? However small that could be, helping a kid with a job, mentoring, what have you. Looking back and being like, oh, doing jiu-jitsu was great for me. It's like, yeah, it was, but I think coaching wrestling is better. It's a better use of my limited time. I'm not saying that I'll never get back to training. And by the way, I'm most likely going to have one more fight before I call it quits forever. But I need to make sure that my life is in a style where I have that time afforded and that the opportunity cost isn't selfish. I can't give up time from my daughter and my wife to go train. I can't give up time from coaching kids that benefit from having me to go train because training is a selfish aspect. So sorry, long-winded answer. I don't train currently because I'm doing other things.
Yeah, I was coach. I actually went back and coached wrestling at my high school for a little bit for
St. Mary's?
Yeah, and ultimately I was like, it's getting in the way of my training.
Yeah.
And I mean, good for you, man, because I just enjoyed jiu-jitsu so much. I just didn't want to give it up.
You know what the difference is though too, if you don't mind me saying this, is like I went hard for 10 years.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I was living and breathing martial arts.
You lived at Finney's, man. Yeah. Every time I was there, you were there.
Yeah, I lived at that gym essentially. So like once I stepped away from it, it was almost therapeutic. And I was kind of like, great. Like I look back at the career now and I'm like, you know what? I did some pretty cool shit.
Fuck yeah, you did.
And I'm happy with what I've done. Like if I had to step away forever, I'm content. And that's regardless of the success that I've had outside of my life. The success that I've had in my life only makes it easier. I said this before, but I'll say it again. When I was done fighting, there was a part of me that was like, okay, what am I now? Am I this like loser, this fighter that didn't make it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then I was like, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I have people that rely on me for paychecks. I have so much more to me than fighter. Fighter was a title. I am a holder of many titles. Father, husband, entrepreneur, business owner, employee, friend, what have you. Fighter was just a title. Now I lost that title and I gained the title former fighter. So it's not that I lost anything. I just transitioned to the next stage. So you think now I've gained another title. Now I'm coach. So it's just like.
But you said so you think you'll take another fight at some point?
I'm just naturally, dude.
Hard to completely hang it up.
Brother, I think, and I've said this, and I don't mean this as an insult. We are fucked up in our heads if we're going to get into a cage half naked and 100%. Beat each other to death. And I'm not saying that, I can put on a suit and tie pretty well and act civilized, but within this exterior is the heart of an ape. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I can go full monkey whenever the hell I want. And I know I have that within me. And I'm not ready to give that part up yet because I'm only 31. Right. I decided to retire fighting when I was 29 because I had other options. Right. But I also think that my time now, I'm working on some things that if I execute to what I believe I can, I will provide more value to fighters, their families, and the spectators than I ever could as a fighter. That's my goal now. I have goals within goals, if that makes sense.
Sure. What do you mean? Like, you want to elaborate on that, or what do you mean? Like, what are you going to be doing?
I think that fundamentally the way that local promotions handle their businesses is flawed and incorrect.
Okay.
And I also will say that when I do decide to cross that bridge, that I have a competitive advantage that they don't have, and that's that I don't need to make money doing it.
That's for sure.
Yeah. And that's going to be able to create prosperity for everybody else. If I were to have my own promotion, tickets should never be more than $30. And you need to adopt a business model similar to fintech or social media companies or any company that's intelligent. And that's taking away the burden of revenue from the individual from selling tickets and putting that burden on companies with marketing budgets. You can get 3 sponsors at $10,000 a pop, and you could pay for any local show you want and not even sell tickets.
Really? 30 grand?
You can cover a show.
For 30 grand? What does it cost?
Depending.
Yeah.
I mean, the delta depends on how big you want to go, right?
Sure.
From the due diligence that I've done so far, a show, if I wanted to run it, depending on venue, could be anywhere between 30 and 40,000.
Okay.
But there's other things you can do on top of that. You can get amateurs paid through sponsorships that you acquire. There's a lot of things that I've been working on for like the last month or two that I'm going to take my time, doing my due diligence. And when the time comes, I'll kind of like unload that weapon, so to speak. But when I do, it'll fundamentally change local promotions for sure. Because imagine, you go to like a Shamrock show, a ticket's $60. You go to a Nemesis show, a ticket's $55 just to get through the door.
Right.
But what if, you got a gym full of people and some people are on hard times and
dude, it's a hard ask for sure. It's a hard ask to like,
hey,
like I just did a,
I just
UFC
did those pay-per-view to come watch me fight.
Yeah. I just did a,
jiu-jitsu
show. It's like, trying to get my buddies to, hey man, you guys can come, I know it's kind of expensive, like I'm like letting them know, like, cause I know not everybody's in the same like financial position, $60 is a different value to a lot of, to several different,
but it's also how much they care about it. Like,
right.
If you're a diehard, you're going to pay it no matter
what. For sure.
what.
Like I go no matter what, because it's like my boys are all fighting, like I'm going to go.
It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if I put the onus on the businesses with marketing budget, then I need to pack the house, because then the more people at this venue
get the eyeballs on their,
the more I can charge, the more value there is for this marketing budget. How do I get people in the venue? I have to make tickets cheaper.
Yep.
If I make tickets cheaper, the threshold to make more money still is there, because I'm no longer selling fights to individuals. I'm selling individuals to companies trying to sell something. And that's what all these, I'm not, instead of, replace people with data, and that's what Meta does, right? Mm-hmm. That's what Snapchat and all these people do. Well, I'm trying to take that into the entertainment field for fighting. I also want to add value to the sponsors by doing a fight kit that UFC does. So right now you can't pay amateur fighters you can't pay them to fight, and you can't pay them ticket commission. but amateurs can have sponsors.
Mm.
The Reebok and Venom deals suck at the UFC level because these guys are at the highest level. They can
Right.
get their own
They
sponsorships.
can do whatever they want, yeah.
But imagine you're a 0-0 amateur.
Amateur.
You have no idea how to get a sponsor. You're barely just trying to sell tickets.
Yeah,
and I'm telling you, hey, where are fight kits?
I'm focused on fighting, man. I'm focused on figuring out how to fight.
Where are fight kits? And I'll give you an extra $100. They're like, sure, that'll pay for my blood work. That'll pay for my physical. I'll pay for all the shit. Fighting is now free. It doesn't cost me anything, right?
Right.
On top of that, I can then go to the sponsors and be like, instead of sponsoring a fighter or a show, you can sponsor all the fighters in a show. All the fighters are going to wear our fight kits. They're going to have your brands on all the fighters. So anyone watching the fights afterwards on YouTube or whatever will see your brand. I think there are just fundamentally like easy ways to completely overhaul the business model. It's been the business model since I've started like 12 years ago, 13 years ago. This was it. Like sell tickets, build show. I just think it's dumb. It's like,
well, it's all on the fighter, man.
And the onus,
dude, that's stressful.
Calling a promotion is oxymoronic because they're not promoting.
Right.
You are. Right. You're the one selling the tickets. You're the promoter and the fighter.
Right. You have this responsibility to fill those seats, and like, dude, you should be worried about the guy
training and cutting weight and all these other things.
You got to get in that cage. Yeah, you got to get in that cage and fight that guy. You know,
or the mats and roll.
Right.
I don't think like MMA is the only. MMA is not the only avenue where this business model can take form. It could easily be a jiu-jitsu
for sure.
Like if I wanted to,
it's a way more niche thing, you know. Like
no, honestly, jiu-jitsu functionally would be easier because the state athletic commission is less involved.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's harder to do it through MMA, but for me personally, I want to do it in MMA because I want to create the promotion that I wish I would have had when I was coming up.
I love that, dude.
You know what I mean? So,
I
have a competitive advantage. I don't need to make money.
Right.
I can do this all at zero operating margin.
Passion project.
Try to compete with me.
Yeah.
Try.
Passion project. Yeah. Love it.
Passion project until it's not. We could scale it. We could grow it. I don't know. Long story short, I'll fight one day. I just got to get the things that I have in my head out and into the actual physical world, and then I'll be happy. And then I'll hopefully the next time and the last time I compete is for my own promotion.
That'd be sick.
That'd be cool.
That'd be fucking sweet, dude.
You know what I mean? The Zach and Pat show, the very first episode I watched was with Patrick Woody. And it was funny because it was kind of like worlds colliding, this Venn diagram of network. And I was like, holy shit, Pat's on there. Yeah. I just call him Woody.
Yeah.
And it was... Sometimes I forget how funny Woody is, how witty he is. I
fucking love that guy.
It was a fun episode, man. I watched the whole thing one sitting while I was working, and I was like, fucking right. And the fact that like there was another person trying to do what I'm trying to do, like locally that I knew, it kind of gave me this... like camaraderie, like how fighters.
Well, you and I both started probably right around the same time, right?
Really?
I think.
When did you start yours?
December last year.
Okay, so I started mine April of this year. So yeah, like 2-3 months.
We started. We had 3 episodes out before the new year.
Oh yeah, so not much at all. Like what made you finally pull the trigger on it? Were you thinking about it for a while?
Dude, I've been thinking about it for 5 years probably. But I had been working with my buddy Murph, who's a content media guy. You know, I hired him to help me create like talking head content for social media. That's how I do a lot of my promotion for my real estate business is through social media. That's how I get a ton of my
Your reels are hilarious.
Thank you. Yeah, I do a lot of business through that, and it's been him and I were already meeting up once or twice a week anyway. Where, it started out like I used to have this like every video I had was like scripted. Okay, well today let's talk about FHA loans, or today let's talk about the inspection process or this or that, and then it eventually turned into like Murph like just saying like because there was a couple days that I showed up where I was not prepared to record, and we still showed up.
Bill O'Reilly, fuck it, we'll do it live.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, hey, well, what do you want to talk about? And I was like, well, I'd like to talk about this, and then so he'd like sit there and be like. So he'd have the camera rolling and he'd be like, what do you think about this? And I'd just like riff on it for 5 minutes. Record. And then he clipped like the best 45 seconds out of it, and there's a social media reel. And so that's kind of what I did. That's that for
organic. It's not like
100%. It turned out being way better than the scripted shit because it's like
the natural passion in the
exactly. And like when eventually you're reading off a script, it sounds like you're reading off a script. When it's just this total conversation or like just off the cuff, sounds so much better. So that's what him and I did for probably about a year. I started working with him in February of 22, I think it was, and we did that for February of 23. and you know, we did that for almost a full year, and then he has a podcast, or he had a podcast. He doesn't really do it anymore, and I was a guest on it, and I had, you know, I just enjoyed it, and he knew that I'm a big consumer of podcasts. Like I consume a ridiculous amount of podcasts per week.
What are 2 or 3 that you listen to?
My 2 favorite, like right now, JRE has been there since I've been listening to that. I think you and I were talking off camera. Modern Wisdom and JRE are my two that I listen to pretty religiously. There's a handful of others that I'll listen to, like, you know, I like Theo's. I like, you know, Two Bears, One Cave. I like
a lot of the bro podcasts.
Dude, yeah, I do. I like all that shit. And then I listen to like some Bigger Pockets, some real estate ones, and you know, there's a handful of others, but you know, some of the business ones. But I love like the bro ones. I love like the science, like when Rogan and you know, and Chris Williamson will have like scientists on, because I love learning about health and fitness, because that's something I'm super passionate about as well.
It's not a podcast, but there's a YouTube channel called Cold Fusion.
Okay.
Highly recommend.
Okay.
It's like 15 to 20-minute videos on a myriad of topics, from like rocket propulsion to vaccination, how you create a vaccine.
Really?
Dude, it is so fucking
Cold
good.
Fusion.
Cold Fusion.
Okay.
Oh, not just science. It'll get into like economics, like how Enron happened, and like little snippets. And dude, I eat that like Cheerios in the morning. It's so fucking good.
I love it. Okay.
Forgive me for interrupting, but
Yeah.
you listen to a couple of these podcasts.
I'm a huge consumer of podcasts, and I went on Murph's podcast. That's my buddy's name. His name's Murphy. And I was like, man, it was really fun. And he always, you know, asks a question at the end of his you know, just asks the guest a question at the end, and he was like, or no, it was what, you know, he always asks you to ask him a question, or is there something you want to ask me? And I said, should I do a podcast? And he was like, dude, I think you should. You did, you know, I think this episode was great, and you know, you're a great conversationalist, and it would be really fun. And so I was like, fuck it, why don't we do it? And you know, we're already getting together once or twice a week anyway, and recording for a few hours. Like, why don't we just have the cameras roll the whole time? And
we're already doing it.
We're already doing it, and just keep the whole thing recorded. And then, you know, and so that's kind of what spawned it. And first I was like, man, I don't know, do I want to, like, you know, take this whole thing on by myself? You know, like, just, and then my buddy Pat, who's you know, he's just become like one of my best friends through the real estate business. Him and I have done probably over 50 deals together.
Did you guys meet?
Yeah. He's like my preferred lender. You know,
Gotcha.
like and I've got a couple lenders I work with. I've several lenders I work with, but you know, I had worked with Pat more than anybody else, and me and him just become really good friends. He's a former professional baseball player, and you know, he's an athlete. We're both fathers, athletes. You know, we're both, in real estate. And yeah, exactly. So we were just like, you know, he was the first, like, I had this text written out to him for like 3 days before I sent it, because I was like, man, I feel like this is like a big ask, man. You want to do a podcast with me? You know, like that just feels.
It's also a huge compliment.
Because we weren't like, we were friends, but we weren't like nearly as close as we are now after we've talked to each other for
hours.
You know, we have almost 100 episodes now, and
each one's at least an hour long.
Yeah, dude. And then we have several episodes that we, you know, we lost or whatever too. You know, I'm sure you've maybe experienced some of that.
We have 3 that never seen the light of day.
I think we're about the same.
Yep,
I think we're about the same. Like 3 or 4.
And I'm so sorry to those 3 guests. I'm so sorry.
Oh, bro, one of mine, Kyle Watson.
Oh,
can you imagine how heartbroken?
What happened?
Technical, like video, like the mic was like poorly placed, and you couldn't hear what he was saying.
Oh no!
And the whole time, like you heard it, it sounded like he was whispering, and I was like, dude, and that was such a good. It was like one of our best episodes, and we're gonna, you know, you've had him on.
Do it again.
Oh, 100%. We're gonna do it again. He's obviously he's my coach. I know him very well, and like I was heartbroken. But like there was that one and a couple other ones that I lost. I listened to that one. That was great. You wearing the gi with the white belt.
That was the one time I actually dressed up for my guest.
I loved it. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, but that was the one episode when we lost that one. I was like, oh, and we fucked the other day. The one we literally released the other day. We lost one of the video files, got corrupted, and we couldn't save it, and fucking.
There was a lot more that went into this than I thought there was going to go. Dude, a lot of the technical stuff.
There's lots of technical problems, bro. And so we ended up just releasing it audio only, which is fine. You know, how many people, there's a ton of people that just consume this audio, and it is what it is.
Better to use it in some format than to throw it away.
That's what I said. I mean, it's audio, just throw it up there. You know, it's like, fuck it. It was a great episode. I enjoyed it. There's great conversation. You know, I feel like most people probably listen. I mean, I believe most people listen to it than watch it. At least I know I do.
I listen to it video only, no audio, with my pants off.
Yeah. Just video. Yeah.
You know, they're talking?
Yeah, they're talking. Yeah. So, anyway, yeah. So Pat, I sent the text to Pat. I was like, hey man, no pressure here. Like I want to, I'm thinking about doing a podcast with Murph, like and doing this, I think you're the first person I thought of. I think we could do something fun together. Cause Pat's one of those guys that, we jump on the phone call, talk about a client and then, fucking there goes a fucking hour, like all of a sudden I'm like, shit, we've been talking for 45 minutes. So like, I don't do that with anybody, and, just him and
Your
I
wife's in the corner like,
yeah, exactly. So we just hit it off all the time. And so, he's the first person I thought of. And so he was in, dude, within 30 seconds of me sending him that text, it was, fuck yeah, dude, I'm in. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. We decided, I think I sent him that text on a Wednesday. Him, Murph, and I met up that Sunday, and we were recording our first episode the following Wednesday. And
so you got all the hardware and everything in that time? That's the fucking.
Well,
real...
Murph, it was like I said, he does. Yeah. It's pretty much all his shit. I've bought some of the stuff since then, and he's recently moved to Florida about 3 months ago. So that's been a big transition period where we're kind of manning the cameras and monitoring all the equipment ourselves, and then I send all the files to him, like upload it to our Dropbox and. Go from there, and he edits them, and then he sends us the clips. And
was there ever like an idea of like, because I'm trying to ask some questions based on me personally now, honestly, did the scope intimidate you? Because I remember when I wanted to start this podcast, there was like an idea of like a vision of it, right? And then when I started looking at what things would cost, what am I going to do with this, how am I going to build it, got kind of intimidating. I was like, oh shit, like this is a lot more expensive than I thought it would be. One, there's a lot more technical stuff that I just wasn't. I'm not a videographer. I'm not an audio guy. You know
I'm not a media guy whatsoever.
And you definitely don't want to trial and error this shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, I bought the bad microphone, so there goes $750. That's an expensive mistake. For sure. Oh, my camera isn't the one for.
Well, now I'm looking at your setup. I'm like, fuck, are we doing this wrong?
No, I think yours looks amazing.
Well, no, I like that you have your cameras the way that you have them set up. I think is a
well. That's the thing, right? There's also variables, right? So like you have a fundamentally different look than I do.
Yeah.
But I think that yours looks very professional.
Thank you.
So I don't know if it's like I don't know if the right term would be right or wrong. I think it's like just a difference of perspective. Like I never looked at yours and thought like this, that, or the other. Because we were talking about the microphones and this, I don't think there's, whether I'm up close, whether I'm away, whether it's a whatever kind of camera, as long as the video is crisp, as long as the audio is clear, and as long as the studio looks like it had some sort of passion put into it, I think you're good. Because ultimately the content is what? The people.
It's the conversation. Yeah. That's what people are here for. The people are here for the conversation, the guest, and hearing what they have to say. Yeah, I was definitely intimidated at first. I was like, man, am I going to be able to... What
was first episode?
First episode was, it's honestly, if we go back and look at the ones that have like one of the most views, it's like top 6, I think, which is crazy. It's funny that that's like the one that people have like gravitated toward or whatever. But like, it just, it was us telling our story, like, like, hey, how I got into real estate. Hey, Pat's.
Forgive me. I mean like the emotions and stuff beforehand. So like, because here's the thing. Before I did my first episode, I remember people were saying, like, you should probably do some, like, dry runs. I go, guys.
Yeah, no.
I fought in front of thousands of people. I'll be fine on a podcast, but I'll be the first person to tell you. When I sat down and, like, they did a 5, 4, 3, 2, let's go, bro, I was like, oh, shit, don't sound like an idiot. Yes. Oh, shit, like.
Well, and it's something you get better at, dude. You get way better at this over time.
Yes, repetition.
Like, that's one thing I've realized is I say and a lot less than I used to. I'm way more conscious of what I say. I think about things before they leave my mouth a lot more than I used to.
Yeah. Because people are listening now.
Yeah, and it's just.
And they can clip you.
Oh,
they
for
can
sure.
Rewind you. He said what?
People, and sometimes you forget that people are listening. You know, at least I do sometimes. Because, like, what was it the other day? I met with this kid, and he's kind of looking for some like mentorship in real estate, and he's like, "Well, actually, man, I listened to like 10 episodes of your podcast," and I was like, "Whoa, like holy shit, this kid knows." Like he started like saying shit about my life that and I'm like, "Whoa, that was like a weird thing." Like I've kind of
you forget the window that you're opening up to people, dude. Some of my wrestlers, like something I need to be more cognizant of is some of my wrestlers listen to this podcast, and I'm like, "Ooh, I need to."
Yeah, tone it down a little bit.
I need to tone it down a little bit. Yeah.
Sure.
Because I don't censor anyone that's ever been on the podcast knows, like, we didn't have a discussion on, like, you can't say this, you can't say that. The only thing I always say is, like, YouTube, like, don't say hard R's, don't go full, like, conspiracy.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't you could have talked about or went down any rabbit hole. I would have followed you. The problem with that is sometimes the delta between like the age brackets and like who's listening,
Sure.
But I would rather be authentic and it goes over some people's heads or it offends some people than try to cater a message that's inauthentic. And I'm just like, what are we doing this for?
Dude, you can't. I don't understand how. I don't think you can do this and be unauthentic.
You could.
I mean, I think it would be very difficult.
I think this election cycle has shown that.
Well, sure, I guess, but I would have a very hard time with it.
Yeah,
you do this.
I couldn't do it.
You sit here and talk for somebody for 2 hours. Like
you don't do it for 2 hours. You do it for 30 minutes to 45 minutes.
Well, I don't think Kamala didn't want to do Rogan. She
wanted to do
45
for what 45
minutes. Yeah, she said they gave Rogan said they gave her 45 minutes.
I watched that podcast. The first time I watched Call Me Daddy is when Kamala Harris did it, and all I could think to myself was like, you could replace this girl with like any CNN pundit. It's the same fucking shit.
It's the same thing.
It's just like a more like relaxed.
They gave her the talking points.
They spent $1 million on that studio.
It's insane.
If you gave me a tenth of that budget, brother.
Yeah,
we're floating in space right now with 3D.
Right.
You know what I mean?
How
did I don't even know.
What did that cost? How did that cost $1 million?
Inefficiency and that. Anyway, we're going down another rabbit hole. Forgive me.
Sorry.
Sack and Pat show. Forgive me. No, but that first episode before you guys are like clicking the record button, what's going through your head? Nerves?
I'm like, yeah, I was definitely nervous. I was like, man, like, is this even gonna be any good? Like, people know.
Pat cool as a cucumber? How's
yeah, I mean, I think he did all right. He was cool too. I mean, I think we were both feeling like, well, I don't know how this is gonna go. Let's give it a shot. Like worst case scenario, we just delete this and try it again. Yeah. Like we don't upload it.
Or it's a car crash and it's so bad everyone can't help but look.
Right, yeah, that too. I mean, in that first episode, it went smooth. We looked at each other like, I think that went well. Let's do it again. All right, let's get a guest in here. All right, let's get our buddy Connor, who's he's a finance guy who we're both good buddies with. Yeah, Silverstein?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good buddy of mine. Yeah, he was my buddy who introduced me to my my mentor in real estate.
Good for him.
Yeah, and Connor and I are friends, and I was literally with him.
I don't know him well. I just know him from the roles that we had, but he seemed like a cool cat.
Yeah,
I think he's friends with Woody too. And
yes, yeah. He's a great dude. So we had him on, and we've had close to 50 guests now, and it's been
what 100 episodes.
We're at 95. So we're coming up on our 100, man, which I'm excited about. The 100th episode, we're gonna do like a little. Me and Pat, we decided we're gonna do like, all right, because we do 2 episodes every week. We do one with just him and I, which we call our duet episodes, and then we do one with a guest. Yeah, it's like a bro show. So like every Wednesday, him and I get together we meet with the guests. We do the podcast with the guest first, and then the guest leaves. We do an hour and a half with them, and then him and I. Do about a 20-30 minute intermission, and then him and I just record, and we have those are a little bit more planned out. All right, what are we going to kind of go over today? Like him and I do a book club. We read a book together every month, kind of encourage our listeners to watch it with us.
Your podcast has a lot more structure than I have in the sense like you guys are actively trying to promote value in yours, aren't you?
Yeah. Manhood, fatherhood,
why that direction out of curiosity?
Really, selfishly for myself,
yeah.
I think that's kind of why, because that's the kind of shit that motivates me and like the shit that I like to listen to, so I just kind of wanted to be that for somebody else.
You want to create the product you consume.
Exactly. And so we read a book together every month, and that's like a some sort of personal development type book typically, and like this month we're reading the 4 Agreements. I don't know if you read that one. That's a good one. Last month was what did we do last month? Oh, last month was the Almanac of Naval Ravikant, which is really good. I don't know if you've read that one. No,
I'm currently reading Woke Inc. by Vivek. I have a list of books that I need to get to. The problem is bandwidth.
Dude, I know.
And I will not do audiobooks.
It's hard to, because you can, I really only read, I read every morning.
It's enticing, but the thing is too, I have a library at home and I'm trying to, I want to, by the time I'm 50, I want to have read enough books to fill my own library. That's like my goal.
I love that. Yeah, I would love to have like literally have a library
of the books.
Yeah,
that I've
just
consumed.
like a fucking. You walk in like the classic wall of books. Like walk into that one day.
I want that in mass.
Yeah, it's badass.
I don't know why.
Yeah, no, there's something about that.
When I was younger, I never.
Even if I buy an audiobook, I always buy the book.
The paperback,
because I just like to have.
Maybe I need to do that. I'll listen to audiobooks, but then I'll buy the book and still put it in the library.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Show that I've consumed it.
Yes, exactly. It's like
to myself.
It's like I like having the physical thing, and then it's just like even if I didn't even actually open it up once, I like to and I just listen to it. I like to just have it to remind me, like, oh yeah, I read that one.
So a physical representation of the amount of knowledge that you're kind of consuming throughout your life.
Yeah, I think it's just I just like to have it, you know. I don't know. It's just like I like looking up on the shelf and seeing that one. Oh yeah, I read that one. You know, like I can remember a little piece of it. So yeah, we do a book club every month, and then we just, so you know, some of our episodes are, you know, one episode a month is about that, and then we always do a Q&A episode every month. So those are like my favorite episodes to do, because like
You just ask
we throw
Instagram
question
people.
box Instagram, and you know we usually get anywhere from like 3 to 10 questions, and you know, we can riff on that for an hour for sure. It's just fun.
How deep you want to get.
Yeah, you know, and it's just fun. You know, it'll tail off into, as you know how this can go. Like it'll tail off into some.
We're over 2 hours
Yeah,
already. It's just
exactly.
Like it flies by.
Exactly, it just flies by, and you have fun, and you're just kind of riffing.
That's how I can tell the good episodes, because sometimes I'll so for each guest I have like, I don't want to say like I've thought about the conversation, but I have a rubric.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Like these are the topics I want to go over.
Yeah, we send out a questionnaire.
Yeah. Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't do that.
We do that.
I just basically like.
I'll send you mine if you want. And,
No.
I mean,
I'll tell you why.
See.
I'll tell you why. Because then that requires me to do due diligence, and I'm curious to see what you think about this. Neither right nor wrong, difference of perspective. If I do enough research on the person, I cease to want to have the conversation because I feel like I already know everything. I'm okay coming in a little blind. I'm okay asking dumb questions, because it's like, listen, I brought you here to learn about you anyway. So I think I'm already respecting you. If I already knew everything about you, then what am I bringing you in here for? This isn't an organic conversation. I want to learn things that I didn't know. I didn't know that you went to St. Mary's. Yeah. I didn't know that you ran a restaurant business beforehand. You know, I didn't know a lot of these things about you. I knew that you were a father. I knew you did BJJ. I didn't know why you got into real estate. Now I do. So it's like I can sprinkle in some things that I know and some things I don't. So like for each guest, I have an idea.
Yeah, well, it's a
but I want
very
you to fill the
basic
gaps.
questionnaire, dude. Like I'm asking, like, what do you do for a living? Like, is there any topics you want to bring up? Like, and just so that way, like, okay, well, if he wants to talk about this, this, and this, like, I'll make sure to bring that up. Or like, oh, he's your job, your career, like, what do you do? Like, oh, I didn't know that you did this as well. Like, oh, I definitely want to bring that up. You know, I keep it pretty. It's like pretty basic. It's like 8 questions. I think
high level questions.
Yeah, it's like, dude, I just give me some bullet points, and I'll yeah, dude, I'm like, give me some bullet points just to like pull shit up. And like some people, fill it out very minimally, and some people like will kind of get a little bit more.
What do you do for a living? What are you, a Fed?
Yeah.
Why are you asking me these questions?
And people get funny with it too. Like, I mean, we had a guy on this past week who, he's a strength and conditioning coach, but he also owns like a meal prep company, like restaurant.
Nice.
It was just cool. Yeah, it was great. We got into that. Like I was like, oh, I forgot you did that. Like, dog, we talked on that for probably half the podcast. And
one of the things I realized about my podcast is how many people are like side entrepreneurs. They got the day job.
Yeah.
But they say side hustle, but like side hustle kind of depicts like it's like a job that you're working for someone else. No, there's a lot of guys where like they have side entrepreneurship. It's like,
for sure,
I'm starting this up. It doesn't generate revenue, or maybe the revenue it generates isn't adequate enough for me to give up my main gig yet. Yeah. So I'm surprised at the entrepreneurial. I'm not surprised at the entrepreneurial spirit. I'm just surprised at how many people have it. That's the thing. I was like, oh, this is much more common than I thought. Maybe I'm not as like unique as I thought I was.
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel that as well. Which
I think it's healthy. It's good. It's humbling. Yes. I'm not special. I'm just like everybody else.
We're just like everybody else, man.
So then what's the end goal with the show? Do you want to like give me like a 1 year, 5 year, 10 year? Do you think you'll do it for 10 years? Do you think you'll do it for 5?
I would love to do it, man. Like me and Pat say all the time, it's like, man, we just, it's like our favorite day of the week. Like I love
do it regardless.
Yeah, dude. I would, I mean, we're not getting paid to do it now.
Yeah.
Like I pay money to do it, like I pay money. It costs me money. Like, and I continue to do it because it's like, sure, someday would I love it to be the other way around and it actually makes me money? Like, yes, that would be amazing. Like, I would love to, we've got a couple sponsors right now, and we don't make a ton of money off of any of them, but like it's a step in that direction.
It helps you.
It's a step in that direction, and I love it, and it's fun. I feel like it's I'm getting such an education from it.
Yeah.
Like I look forward to sitting down with people every week and just shooting the shit and figuring out a little bit more about them. I think I am growing as a person from it, for sure.
I know I have. And I pay for all my other passions. Like when I first started MMA and everything, like I was paying to do jiu-jitsu, and I was paying to, and it's like, well, I paid for these things. Like, why wouldn't I pay for this? And it's like, in the grand scheme of things, will I miss the money, or will I remember? Like, I can already tell you, I have forgotten what like the Whitney episode cost me, but I remember the conversation. I forgot what the Mike Rogers episode, like, how much did I pay that? I remember the conversation. So that's like, I think the right trajectory of like the money can be made back, but the moment can't be recreated or it can't be supplemented. And I told you this off camera, but I'll say it on. When we had that month and a half where we couldn't record an episode, I remember like when we started, it was finally like, I wanted to do this and I'm finally doing this. And I was getting the warm fuzzies and everything, and I was enjoying the conversations. And then when I couldn't do it for a month and a half, it dawned on me. I was like, oh man, I don't want to say I need it, but like I really enjoy this. I would rather do a podcast episode than go out for a dinner. I would rather sit here and have a conversation than like go out with drinks for the boys. I brought the bar here. Let's have a drink and have a conversation. You know what I mean?
I totally
want to
agree.
turn this studio into like a hangout spot.
Yep.
With like authentic conversation with cool fucking people, and then we record it and then post it up later, and hopefully there's value.
People get value out of it. You know,
I get value out of it.
I enjoy it.
I'm selfish.
Yes.
If we had 0 viewers, I don't care. I still enjoy this conversation.
You and I are not. I mean, you get more views than I do, but like we're not at any point now where we're like getting crazy amounts of views. But like I'm not stopping. Why would I stop?
Yeah.
I enjoy the fuck out of it. I enjoy every minute of it.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
Either no one watches it and I had a great conversation, or people watch it and I still had a great conversation.
You have some episodes, bro. Like you've had Adam Marburger on. Like I thought that episode was gonna kill it, just because like that was like one of my favorite episodes we did. But then like look at the views like on that one, like we didn't get a ton. Like it's funny how those like don't line up.
The problem is popularity, and if you chase, this is how I think of it. You let me know if I'm wrong. There are 3 things that I have to do if I'm going to keep my sanity. Number 1, I don't watch an episode after I film it. I do the editing on the episodes, and I have a guy who does the clips. So I'll go through this and cut out the breaks and things like that. If you were to have told me like, hey, let's take this out,
cut that out. Yeah, whatever.
I would have done that. But like, I don't watch a single episode start to finish. The problem with that is sometimes people will come up and be like, oh man, this episode was so good when you talked about this, and I'm like, oh shit, I completely forgot that we even talked about that.
That's
but the pro of that is I'm not hyper fixated on what I'm saying. I was hyper fixated on what I was saying for like the first couple episodes, and I think it was hindering me. Now I'm just like, if you talk to me on this podcast and if you talk to me off the podcast, did you get any vibe that anything was different?
No.
I want this to feel like you're in this room with me having a conversation with me.
Yeah, you forget.
So number 1, I don't watch the episodes. We film it, we post it, on to the next. And we have like a guest log of like 10 guests. So like, this was fun. We'll most likely have you on again because this was an easy episode. On to the next, right?
Yep.
Number 2, I do not look at the views. Because if I start I look at the views macro wise. How did the channel do this month? How many episodes did we produce? Like, are we producing at a good rate? You know what I mean? I'll look at those metrics, but I won't look at like, did this video get more views? Did that video? Because then it'll start shifting this video got more views than this video. Why? Oh, because we
talked about
this topic.
Yeah, we talked about politics on this one. We talked about drugs on this one. We talked about this on this one.
I'm going to talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about. And if people want to listen, cool. If they don't, also cool. Like, to each your own.
Sure.
I'm going to have the conversations I want to have. Those are the 2 things I do. And number 3, I want to create something for other people. So like, I have producers. I'm afforded the ability to like kind of create some like secondary income for some people, and I take that very personal. Like, we created something here that like I can generate paychecks for other people, and I think outside of being a father and a husband, being a someone who creates jobs, like a job creator, is like one of the best titles I can have. And I was able, I have other businesses that operate on profit margins, that the money needs to be coming in for me to be paying people out. This is one of the few things where like, I don't care. I'll sign the checks. This is fun for me. And then people can get like a few, $300-400 every couple weeks, and I'm giving out money, and that makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I'm not just being selfish with this, because it originally started like that. I want to have these conversations. It's a selfish endeavor, but then I'm able to like maybe provide a little bit of value for people that want to watch. But if no one watches, I'm still going to do it. And then at the very least, if no one watches it, I'm having conversations I want to have. At least some people are walking away with paychecks.
Right. That's a great way to look at it, man.
Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see in a year from now.
But I'm not stopping. You're not stopping.
No, I told them that I had some metrics of what I wanted. And since we've started, those metrics like have gone away. I told them that I would like for this to like operate at a rate where
Who's them?
the people that work underneath me.
Okay.
I don't know if I should say or I don't want to say their names.
have to.
We have a couple producers that kind of work. So we have one here today,
Right.
and then we have another one, and then a third one in case like no one can make it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And the reason we have that is because a plethora of reasons. You know, multiple cameras, vMix, all these other things. But I'll end it on this point. Essentially, what I started this podcast for and why I'm still doing it are different. Because I started it because I was like, oh, we're doing this already. Now I realize I just fucking love doing this. This is a lot of fucking fun. And I'm going to do this until I no longer have fun doing it. That's how I did fighting.
Yeah.
I'm not having fun with this anymore. I don't need to do this anymore. I'm going to stop. It took me 10 years to do that. So if I do podcasting for 10 years, I'm fine with that.
Love that, man. Yeah, I don't see myself stopping anytime soon, man. I'm just gonna keep doing it. Like there's no like goal at the end. There's no like light at the end of the tunnel that I see. I'm just enjoying it right now. We're gonna keep it up. We're gonna keep going. And you know, if one day we decide to hang up the mics and decide to not do it anymore, then that'll be the day. But like as of right now, like I have no reason to stop. I enjoy sitting down with people every week.
Here's one more aspect I didn't think about. You're making something that can like stand the test of time.
Yeah, it's there.
If I get hit with a truck, or let's say we leave here today, and something happens to me, my daughter can watch these things when she's older. If I'm not around, you know what I mean? Like they're you know, like how many times?
I've thought about that too.
Yeah, like how many times do you think like, well, I wonder what my dad was like when I was when he was
when he was in his early 30s. Like
10
I
years
would
from
love
now,
to know.
we'll have a catalog of this stuff. My daughter, if she ever wants to go down the rabbit hole, she can have
And
it.
learn all about her dad, dude. I would, yeah.
She'll learn much more than she'd like.
For sure, but like, I mean, man, if I would most certainly go back and watch. I mean, my dad's still here, but like, I would love to go back and see what he was like when he was my age. You know,
my mother passed, and one of the things that I wish we would have had back then was like, when she died, it was like 2011, and it was like kind of before like MySpace was still a thing. I had just gotten into Facebook, right? So like I think to myself, like, what if my mom would have died 2015 and not 2011? How much more like digital content would I have had of her, of like talking to me and things like that? Like, you know, the things that we have now are like VHS tapes and stuff like that. But like with my dad, I have so many things, right?
Right.
And I think to myself, like, my daughter will have literally a library of me.
Bro, think of how many pictures you have of your daughter on your phone. Like
my Facebook is basically that.
Yeah, I mean, like my whole phone is. I mean, but you should see my wife's phone. That's even crazier. You know, like the amount of pictures that she has of our sons it's absurd. You know, like there's more pictures in like, you know, let's just say like probably like a tenth of her phone than there probably are of me ever. You know, of our kids. Which
the hierarchy.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy, but. It's just where we're at now with technology and having these phones in our pockets everywhere we go. Yeah. You know, we've got a camera and a supercomputer in our pocket that we take everywhere. Kind of forget that, you know, all the power that has.
Times change, man. Listen, Zach, I appreciate you hopping on.
Oh, of course, man. I appreciate
want to also, before we end, I wanted to apologize. You were one of the few people that we had listed as guests before the construction, and I had to reschedule with you, so I wanted to say it on camera and off that I'm sorry. It was something that I didn't see coming, and I didn't think it would take as long. So just from one man to another, I apologize.
Bro, not a problem at all.
We were able to reschedule.
Yeah, as someone who does this as well, I know how shit happens and crazy things happen, and this is out of your control.
Yeah,
well, but I'm happy that you're up and running again, and this was a lot of fun, and man, I had a blast. I'd love to do it again sometime.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Love to hang out more.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure, brother.
Appreciate you.
Of course.